step. I take a look at my right and realize there's nothing left. Cause I've been blasting and laughing so long that even my mama thinks that my mind is gone. But I ain't never crossed a man that didn't deserve it. Even treated like a punk, you know that's unheard of. You better watch how you're talking and where you're walking, or you and your homies might be lying and chalk. I really hate the trip, but I gotta know. As they quote, I see myself in the pistol smoke. Fool, I'm the kind of G the little homies wanna be like on my knees in the night, saying prayers in the street light. Cause I've been blasting and laughing so long that even my mama thinks that my mind is gone. But I ain't never crossed a man that didn't deserve it. Even treated like a punk, you know that's unheard of. You better watch how you're talking and where you're walking, or you and your homies might be lying and chalk. I really hate the trip, but I gotta know. As they quote, I see myself in the pistol smoke. Fool, I'm the kind of G the little homies wanna be like on my knees in the night, saying prayers in the street light.
Good evening, race fans. It is Sunday night in prime times. That means Sunday night NASCAR does battle out there on the racetrack. Good evening. Welcome to Redline Racing Network. Is qualifying currently underway. And first and foremost, I got to say thank you to all of you, the drivers, the fans, and everyone that showed up last week. The broadcast absolutely smashed all expectations. and we couldn't have been happier. We appreciate all the support and everyone that has reached out over the course of the past week. And in fact, that YouTube.com live chat is already jumping. Amanda Price looking for Sean Rockin' Rogers' second win, as he was the big winner in Daytona. Now we're on a collision course for some more plate racing of the hybrid kind tonight. So strap grandma in. Make sure you got plenty of kernel-free popcorn, as we're about to get rowdy in the hot ATL here in prime time. Joining me up in the booth tonight, your Redline in-race performance analyst is going to be Ryan Samuelson. You know him as Mr. Restrictor, a plate ace in this series, and he's going to be helping us along the way tonight, offering his insights and expertise out there on the racetrack. Sadly, my co-partner from last week, DJ Daniel, is fighting the good fight right now with iRacing. His account is linked to Steam, and Steam has been having some issues with him being able to access the service. He worked on it last night, unable to get it going. Then it worked. Now it is not. So I'm going to try to do my best to cover the whole race in its entirety and bring you guys all the action all the way to the checkered flag here on Redline Racing Network, as we're now 5 minutes and 26 seconds into this qualifying session. Let's go ahead and get that ticker up on the screen so you guys at home can follow along. Tane Hodison currently showing on that pole right now as it sits right now with the best lap of a 31:22. Is John Crawford now out there on the racetrack in the 34 machine, as he pulls that Mustang down off of the banking. Is his lap going to be good for a 31:25? Sean Rockin' Rogers, last week's winner, currently sitting in that 9th place position in the 44. So it looks like a majority of this field has already put a lap up on the board. Race fans, welcome back to Redline Racing Network, and a little network outage is not going to kick us in the pants. Able to resolve the problem. We are back up and running and with you hopefully for 100% of the way this evening. Currently rejoining coverage 21 laps into the scheduled 260 here from the new and improved Atlanta Motor Speedway. Currently at the helm right now, leading this race, it's the 84 who started on the front row, continues to lead in the early going. However, we're going to focus in now on the driver that started deep in the woods, currently inside the top 15. Now make that 13th place position. Ryan Samuelson, our in-race reporter and track performance expert. Ryan, I know you're currently out there in the car putting up the good fight. How does that car feel thus far out there on the racetrack, my friend?
It feels pretty good. I kind of went a little hard out the gate just to see what I got, and the car feels pretty good. We were able to maneuver pretty well throughout the thing. So, I know it's early, but I kind of want to go for that lead, man.
Well, hey, I don't call you Mr. Restrictor for nothing as we now jump on board with you. What can you do out there on the racetrack? How are you able to make these runs, and what are you looking for out there on the racetrack that's going to help you to be successful over the course of these 260 laps tonight?
Oh, you're looking for what's behind you. You're kind of spend 50% of the race looking behind you and in front of you. And you're also kind of knowing who's around you. Okay, I trust this guy to work with me. This guy will work with me. Oh, I wrecked this guy a couple weeks ago. He's not going to work with me right now. And you're paying attention to all the runs around you, where the momentum shifts. Oh, I know there's more cars in the outside lane. I know who's in third. You're kind of trying to keep track of where everyone is in relative. Like if you don't think a guy isn't oh God, check out.
Whoa!
All right. You're dealing with that.
Fair enough, and I didn't mean for that to happen when we were live on board with you, but great heads-up driving there, Ryan. That was dicey out there, and we'll go ahead and we'll cut you loose. We'll check back in with you. I appreciate your time and effort up here in the broadcast booth to help our cause. Good luck the rest of the way. I know we'll be speaking with you momentarily.
Yeah, I'll talk to you in a little bit.
Well, there, folks, you heard it right from the horse's mouth. Mr. Restrictor, you guys know him as your sister's favorite driver. Almost took a car to the face there is Ryan. Great heads-up move there, able to jump on the binders and get out of harm's way. But just as he was saying, those are the types of things that you want to avoid out there on the racetrack. As we now send it back up to camera one and join this lead pack here. And it's been all Caden, literally from the drop of the green flag. Everybody trying to dethrone these Camaros right now as they have a stranglehold on the competition. 1, 2, and the first forward in line being piloted by Tony in that 0-1 machine. In fact, these two Chevrolets showing you that you can make that tandem draft work. A big-time shove there. You've seen the energy, the momentum. However, look how quickly those cars behind in that train able to reel them back in. And another thing you better pay attention to are those temperatures. Since this update to the next-gen car, those oil temperatures and water temperatures climb faster than some of these drivers would like. And yes, it's a combo. It also takes a little bit longer to cool these cars down. So as you heard from Ryan's perspective, you're watching the runs, you're watching the lines, trying to see multiple cars in front of you, as well having to pay attention to the telemetry inside the race car, as it's going to be a workout for the drivers and the teams throughout the course of this race tonight. As it is fast and furious, hot and heavy at the front of this thing. Since we didn't get a chance to do it at the start of the broadcast, let's go ahead and bring up tonight's race information. Brought to you by Black Magic and Team Watson Racing Setups, the official setup shop and custom designs and paint scheme partner here on the channel. Caution now out on the racetrack. We'll wait to do that. Let's see if we can figure what happened here. Is this going to be the first caution for incident on the evening? It's really going to hinder what these Chevrolets were trying to accomplish here in the early going. Showing a lot of poise and speed. In the real life race, those Fords were FAST fast out in front. But once they got back in traffic, the handling really went away on those cars. However, here in the sim, Chevrolets are showing some serious speed here early. So that field now catches the iRacing.com pace car. It's been all Caden here in the early going, your pole sitter, and also continuing to lead with the help of a fellow Chevrolet behind him. And you have Tony in the 0-1 ride, John Crawford in fourth, and up 13 positions, the 95 ride of John Crow Sr. In race performance analyst, Ryan Samuelson up 15 positions. Biggest mover of the race thus far, not surprised there. As you remember last year, I believe at Talladega, he came all the way from basically from worst to first, from 40th to win the race. And he is doing it once again as he has now cracked the top 15 in that 12th place position. While we're under caution here, let's now try to pull up that race information. Sunday Night NASCAR, of course, the place live here in prime time, and we are going 100% the distance tonight, 260 laps, 400 miles, no fast repairs. Track temperature currently clocking in at 73 degrees, so this surface going to be making all the grip in the world out there tonight. Combine that with a 65-degree ambient air temperature, very humid and muggy for this time of the year. 96% water drain, overcast skies. That's helping limit the heat out there on the racetrack. And that wind could be a factor as it's currently gusting out of the west at 10 miles an hour, and it could approach speeds of 15 to 17 throughout the course of the race. Those drivers will need to pay attention to that invisible force they can't see. Could make things a little dicey coming into the turns 3 and 4 complex throughout the course of the race this evening. Lights go out on that iRacing.com pace car, which means we're getting back to the green flag side of things momentarily as that field now rounds down the backstretch. As we re-rack, restack, and shuffle the deck here. Chevrolet on Chevrolet action on the front row. Your pole sitter is going to restart on the inside lane. That other strong Chevrolet on the outside. Then you're going to have the Ford of Tony, John Crawford, Sean Rogers, last week's winner, rounding out the top 5. Keep your eye on that 44 machine, as that thing was a missile. Remember, it wasn't easy for him last week either. He had to come back from multiple laps down to win this thing. That pace car is going to pull off. There he goes. Here we go. And it's time to wipe the dust, kick the clutch, hope that rear end doesn't bust. Waiting on that green flag into the Geico restart zone. He's going to send it deep in the box, and those glorious V8s come roaring back to life here in prime time. See that lane shift there? The 84 says, hey, I want to get with my battle buddy who was doing all the heavy lifting there before that caution. He goes up to the top shelf where Mama hides the cookies. It's a 2x2 side-by-side John Force style drag race down the backstretch. Once again, look at the drafting by those bow ties. The 84 and 50 going to shoot out to a big lead here. Look like they have a 200 shot of nitrous as we send it now trackside to jump on board with the 50. Ooh, that was almost a push gone wrong there as they had their bumpers locked. And caution out on the racetrack again. John Wilco involved, one of the Pennsylvania boys. And just as soon as we get it going, we're going to have to slow things back down. Is 2 quick freak cautions here to start this race off. Go back to the Redline Racing Network instant replay. Keep your eye on the 62. Let's go ahead and cue playback, try to dissect what happens here. Oh, something happened. Oh, we got big time problems in front of him. Multiple cars involved. We're going to have to take a little bit of a different approach to this. Let's see if we can. That's the angle we're looking for. As you can see here, you already have the 95 top shelf of the racetrack. Perhaps this is 3 wide gone wrong here. And as you can already see, that 78 is pointing in a direction that probably he shouldn't be. As you can see, he's primed to come shooting down the racetrack. Let's go ahead and restart this here at quarter speed. Goes full-blown drift mode. The 95 almost kicks him back straight, but he overcorrects it and instantly decimates the front of his race car. You can see all of that smoke billowing. And then once this happens, it's going to create a chain reaction. And watch all these escape routes just disappear. The 56 doing everything as he's literally impaled himself inside of that race car. Violent contact again with the 78. As he's got it locked down, holding on for dear life, desperately at the mercy of that race car. As the big one pops off here early. I know I mentioned John Wilco when we first went back to this replay. Let's jump on board with the 62 and take a look at this from his perspective. This is going to be at full speed. Here we go. You can see it pop off in front of him. He sees the smoke. He barely got tagged just a little bit. And that car goes flow rider mode right round and comes to rest in the preferred lane on the racetrack. And remember, these drivers do not have a fast repair at their disposal. If you destroy your hot rod out there on the racetrack, you have to fix it in the pits. Costly for most of these drivers, especially with the amount of damage that some of these guys have sustained here in the early going. As we now cycle back to the live side of things. I imagine the sense of urgency out there on the racetrack. We're going to see a little bit of a change here. Perhaps these drivers starting to dial the intensity back. There's a long way to go. Ryan Samuelson, you're back in that 38th place position right now. What happened to you out there on the racetrack? What did you see?
Yeah, I got caught up in that, so I think we're going to take a look at damage. I think it doesn't look good. I'm still kind of trying to digest what just happened. I saw him kind of squirreling a little bit, and next thing you know, the 78's flying out in front of me. I thought I could duck a little bit low to get out of the way, and then I think I got netcode, honestly, and just put up another wall, and right front wheel was destroyed. So you can't get around the track without that wheel. So
Ryan, I think that was netcode as well, as timing and scoring did not highlight you as being involved in that incident. Unfortunate blow here early. Sometimes this is plate racing, right? You have the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. And right now, obviously, you're behind the 8 ball. Do you think you'll be able to get it fixed and get it back out there in competition?
Nah, I think we're gonna call it a day. We're gonna take a race suit off and get the suit and tie out and join you up in the booth in a little bit.
Well, Ryan, we appreciate that on the broadcast side of things. However, the race car driver inside of you, obviously not what you wanted. A lot of anticipation. We know how much you look forward to these races and how good you are out there on the racetrack. Tough pill to swallow, but we're glad to have you up here in the booth, man. Please join us when you're able.
All right, gotcha. I'll be up there in a little bit.
Is the green flag back in the air? And my God, the broadcaster's curse is real with me. I'm sure you folks at home remember 3 wide here. This is not good. It is not okay to 3-way. As it got dicey right back there on that 6th, 7th, 8th place position. Chris Davis in the Hornet's Nest. He's trying to get out of there and advance his position on the racetrack as that got spicy. Quick, fast, and in a hurry, and it quickly single files back out. But as I was saying, that broadcaster's curse, I got to get rid of this thing. Dave and I, early in that season last year, we KO'd cars instantly at times. I mean, I wouldn't even mention Sean Rogers' name for a couple races. Anytime I spoke about it, seemed like he would instantly have something happen out on the racetrack that completely wiped him out of the race. And here we go, Ryan Samuelson joining us, which I thought was going to be a very cool and cutting-edge look, not only having him in the booth at times, but also joining us live from the racetrack. Instantly KO'd as caution comes back out again. Believe this is going to be the stage caution, not for incident. But given what just happened in the opening segment of this race, hard not to think that it would be for some more mayhem out there on the racetrack. As that field now catches that iRacing.com pace car once again. The 84's got to really get on the binders there to check up. And able to do so. A couple other things to highlight, ladies and gentlemen. This racetrack is not like the old version. This place was worn out. It was famous for being a cheese grater to those tires. Mentally, taxing the drivers out there, having you run on the fine-legged edge, as they said. Loose is fast and on the verge of out of control. That couldn't be the old Atlanta, as the pavement was north of 20 years old. It went through a massive reconfiguration, reconstruction. Now, it's a cookie cutter that thinks it's a plate track. In the first couple of races here, it's been full-blown wide open throttle. However, if you go back to the race last year, in the 2024 season, we got a glimpse, I think, of what this place could be as tires and handling became more of a problem or an issue. It caught a lot of teams off guard, and we've seen that yet again today. So I say to the ones of you that wish this place was just like the old ATL, let's give it a chance. Let's wait a little bit. I think there's some really good racing to come from Atlanta right around the corner in the near future. Most of these drivers have not been down pit road. Got to go back all the way to that 16th place position of Dylan Banks, who was down on lap 31. The same for Jay Duane. Crawford in 18th was down on lap 36. And everyone's going to stay out here. Checking in the YouTube.com live chat. Great to see all of you showing back up, supporting the cause again. Amanda Price, what is up? She was absolutely lit as Sean Rogers got the victory. Longhorn 62 checking in, saying, Jay, I got you. TFC Black buffering. I'm very well aware of that. Glad we were able to go ahead and get this broadcast back live for you guys. Kim SP also shouting out Jay, flexing as well. Liz, how you doing? Good to see you. Go, Tony. Mallory in the house as well. Want to thank all of you again for sounding off, supporting the cause. Shout out your favorite driver. We'll get them some more screen time, and we appreciate you being part of all the high fly and high octane action here on Redline Racing Network. As those lights do go out on that pace car, which means this gives these drivers one more opportunity to reach up, pull those belts tight one more time. And let's get back to the boogie here in Atlanta. Those drivers trying to make it look like the pace car was going to join them out there on the racetrack for that green flag. Guys at the front of the field having a little fun with it. Why not? You're under caution. You got to keep it light somehow, some way. Pace car is going to send it down pit road. Caden's going to have the trigger into the Geico restart zone. And he's going to go deep in the box. He's going to put the pedal through the middle, up through the sequential gearbox one more time. And those Fords do a much better job on this restart. And in fact, the 81 or the 01 of Tony Myrick all over painted to the back of that 84 machine. Oh, we got massive problems just in back of last week's winner. Multiple cars around. The 01 goes up the wall and sees Dale. Matt Mackin took a car to the face. Andrew Deemer, a blind howitzer to that race car. Good Lord. As we got parts still raining into the grandstands here. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the fireworks have gone off here early in this one. And each time that yellow flag has got out, they have stepped it up as far as the cartage goes out on the racetrack. We're going to give timing and storing a minute to catch up and get this sorted. Couple cars lining up here to come down pit road. That's going to be the 30 of Jeremy Miller. Miller time is back. Great to see him in that 30 machine out there. Dalton Mobley involved in an incident out there on the racetrack as well. This is not going to be pretty. Jeff Carson involved as well. There's a driver that just has horrible luck at times. 3 wide, never a good thing. Let's let it rip. Once again, 3 wide. Going to be a main contributing factor here. And look at all the tire smoke. We're going to have to dissect this one car at a time. There is so much aftermath here because of that. And again, there's a lot of dirty air. These cars are very sensitive, aero sensitive. And when you get 3 wide here at Atlanta, these cars are going to get extra tight. And if you have it's a game of inches out there at this pace. So we send it up to the eye in the sky. Chris Davis there getting the push from the 9. Let's go ahead and take another angle, another look at this. You see Jeff Carson there on the high side of the racetrack. Not sure if he came down or if the 9 came up. Let's back it up a couple frames here. We can see what happened now. To come out of the corner, the 9's going to get a bad push and sent up the racetrack. He's going to catch it. And then he's going to get some extra help here as he gets high-fived in that corner. There's the contact, and watch how this 9's going to react and get spun down the racetrack. He's going to administer a shot to the nose of the 72. Sean Rockin' Rogers barely escapes death. And now Carson's going to get pushed helplessly sideways. 88's going to get an up-close and personal moment. They're hard on the binders. And then you have everything that happens on after it. I'll tell you what, I thought this was a lot worse than what initially looked like live with all of that tire smoke. Sometimes it's hard to see these drivers. What situational awareness they have out there on display once again, just like at Daytona. I mean, a wreck like that should have KO'd a good chunk of this field. As you see the 93 take a lick there. Oh, Matt Mackin once again having a great run last week at Daytona. Lady Luck not nice to him in the late going, I should say. And then thought he was through there and got peppered, unfortunately. A little bit of damage to the front of that Camaro. That's going to be an extended stop in the pits. As we cycle back now to the live side of things, under caution. Under caution here for the 4th time this evening in the early going. Sunday night NASCAR doing battle at the new Atlanta for the Hot-Lanta 400. We're going to step away for the first time this evening. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back. Stick around.
Here at TWRS, we're always here to help our squad when they need a little push in the right direction. That's just who we are. We're a beautifully diverse group of goofballs dedicated to driving fake race cars as fast as possible. And we continue to push each other to the front using the power of nonsense. We have one of the strongest NASCAR programs on the service, and you can access it all for $24.99 a month. And we just released individual subscriptions for $14.99 a month for each NASCAR vehicle. We also just added a Rallycross program, and our IndyCar program is taking off as well. So come join the weird side. We have speed and cookies. Cookies are not included in some locations.
Race fans, welcome back to Atlanta Motor Speedway here on Redline Racing Network. And boy, has it been an interesting and quite frankly odd start to this race with a bunch of cautions, 4 to be exact, here in the early going. Our in-race reporter, affected by my famous broadcaster's curse. However, now joining me up in the booth for the first time here as he shifts from racing duty, now going to join us in the broadcast side of things, a lot like Cletus McFarland did at Daytona in his ARCA debut. Ryan Samuelson, welcome to the Tony Trapasso Memorial broadcast booth. Thank you for joining me up here.
Thanks for having me. Great. Thanks for letting me come up to the booth today and join you even during the race. But much rather be out there. No offense, my man, but like this you can't get much better than this.
Hey, I appreciate your willingness to work with us and help us. And my God, that was so cool to have that perspective of being on the racetrack with you as you were kind of breaking down the keys to success and just what you're kind of doing in the race car and being able to show the viewers all of that in real time. Look forward to doing it again in the future. But now we get to kind of break you in on the broadcast side of things as we re-rack and restack this deck. And out on the front, we got a couple big-time new faces as far as cars that haven't been to the front yet. You have the Michael Witt in the 88, who's up 30 positions, and Andrew Deemer in the 83, a lot like you in the sense of gaining and churning out those positions outside of row number 1. What can we expect here on this restart? What are you looking for when we go back to green flag racing?
Well, we're coming to the end of a stage here once we go back green, so you're going to get, this could be a hectic restart right here. You got pushing, shoving, you're going to probably get some 3-wides here a little bit. I expect to watch out for someone like a Sean Rogers, a Paul Hill, a Jeremy E. Miller who missed the 500. Strong guys that are towards the back of this top 10 that want to get those extra points, even a shot at that stage win.
You know, as we get ready to go back green flag here, that iRacing.com pace car is going to send it off the racing surface so we can go ahead and get back to the good side of things here at Atlanta. Through the Geico restart zone, Barney's going to let it fly, and Witt's going to go ahead and put it through the floorboards one more time. A big-time shot there, help from the 84. That Chevrolet has been FAST fast. And Ryan, you said it moments ago, look for one of those beast mode cars, and there's Chris Davis, currently third in line on the bottom, Ryan. 84 is going to swing out now, but he's not going to have any help. He's going to have to side draft for his life. Now Davis is going to come up to the top shelf, help out that Chevrolet, and we know that 74 can push. And here we go, everyone. It's a movement to the high side of the racetrack. They're going to try to bury the 88 in the dust here. The 6 almost spun out as we're 3 wide again, Ryan.
Yeah, I'm just kind of watching Chris Davis giving the old, I'm going to shove you out there, but I'm going to ban you in a heartbeat. It's like the dance. It's like when you get in that dance or dancing with someone, and then it's like, this is all about me on the dance floor. Screw you.
It's me, myself, and I. I'm the only one that matters. And that caution is going to be back out. I believe that is for the stage. And how fitting. Hayden, your pole sitter, who ran a nearly perfect stage in that Chevrolet, is going to get the stage win from Beast Mode Performance, a driver that you mixed it up with a little bit last week out there on the racetrack. Chris Davis, who's up 15 positions. Dylan Banks, a similar story to round out your top 3, up 16 spots. Then you have Rob Beestaw in the 4th place position, Michael Witt, Richard Pruitt, Paul Hill, Heath Log, Jeff Carson, who just moments ago I thought his race was going to be over out there, and making the comeback here for this first start of the season, as Ryan mentioned moments ago, Miller Time, a.k.a. Jeremy Miller, is going to round out your top 10. I assume here... Go ahead.
I was going to say, exciting finish to the stage, and you're just kind of thinking about now you're getting in the middle of, like, okay, what's coming for this next stage? A longer stage. It was a full fuel run for this whole stage. No one needed to pit for fuel or tires in the first stage, but now you have that tire wear, you have that thinking, okay, if we get that caution, well, if we don't get that caution, like, when am I going to pit? How am I going to pit? Kind of starts to come into play here.
Yeah, and this is where this race starts to get stressful, to your point. That first stint of the race, you had enough go fast in the tank, and you had tires to make it there. Now it's only going to get a little more challenging from here. I know this racetrack is not necessarily identical to Daytona or Talladega. However, the draft characteristics and the way that this car handles out there at times is certainly like it. Unfortunately, you didn't have a lot of track time out there this evening. Do you have an idea of what the tire fall off was like, and how will that affect the handling, on these next-gen cars, especially over the long green flag run?
Well, handling does come into play a little bit more here than Daytona, especially on the iRacing model. However, you can go that long extended period of time without tires. Will it help you a little bit? Yeah, but you need more than just tires. You need some lovely friends behind you or
yes, sir,
to go with those in those lanes. And this being such a bottom dominant track, and it's not necessarily a tire wear track quite yet. As it ages and as iRacing updates the service and all that, it'll be starting to become that. But right now with it, your more worries are your strategy with hitting, when that outside line's going, because everyone's hugging that bottom lane. You can't go anywhere up quite literally.
Yeah, all that momentum, that force, it naturally wants to bring that race car up to the top shelf of the racetrack. You're saying this track being bottom lane dominant. Also, that's going to be the quickest way around here. Is the further you come off of that line, the distance is going to be longer as well. Do you think over over the course of a longer run, or if you get some good friends, particularly a strong group of cars up there on the top shelf of the racetrack, do you think that lane could come into play as we progress through the course of this race, or as rubber gets put down into the racetrack?
Oh, absolutely. You get the right people behind you or with you, just in general, it's going to help you. With a couple of teammates and I were talking, you're watching the people you're pushing, like, okay, I didn't think about this guy's potential help, but if it comes down, push comes to shove quite literally, I might go with them. I'm confident in shoving the ever-loving what out of them to the victory, to the win, or to the stage win, or whatever it is. So you're constantly watching that, and you kind of think, who would make a good third car? Who's making a good fourth car? Because the leader can only do so much full throttle. The second car can only push it. It's the gaps that the third and fourth car are not leaving that matters.
Yeah, in that sense, it's a game of millimeters. The closest you can get without making contact, car 3, car 4, that's really going to complete the package of how quick you're ultimately going to be out there on the racetrack. I agree with you 100%. As we get ready now, as those lights still on the pace car, I thought they were up just a moment ago. But then again, we're under foggy conditions here. Is real-time weather, I believe, in play here this evening. So we're going to have to go at least one more time around as we do go lose those lights on the pace car, which means next time by, we're going back to green flag conditions. Beast Mode Performance, Ryan, going to be on the outside front row. We've seen how quick their cars were last week. Let me ask you a setup question. I know you have a lot of experience with setups as, that's kind of one of your mainstays, if you ask me. How much different is the setup here for Atlanta versus what we've seen at Daytona last week?
It's just a pinch different. You are trimming the car out to max. there you just have to turn a little bit more. You're dealing with a little bit more bump, so there's a little bit more to the shocks aspect of it because the Daytona surface isn't quite as bumpy. You have quite of a larger turn radius at Daytona versus here. So it's not too different, but there's enough differences where it did play into a little effect. You're not bringing your same Daytona car, but you're not bringing your Las Vegas car to this track.
Thank you for the insight and expert analysis and breakdown. Pleasure to have you up here in the booth as we get ready to light this racetrack back aflame one more time. We're going to send it down trackside, jump on board with Biscuit, a.k.a. Chris Davis. He's going to restart here on the outside lane. Let's go ahead and see how Davis is going to attack this restart and the bottom lane on this on the racetrack, I should say. Green flag back in the air. You can see that RPM starting to climb to the heavens. Grabs it all the way out, 9,000 RPM. And just like Ryan Samuelson was saying, that bottom lane is going to be dominant here as Davis bails down to the bottom of the racetrack. And he has help with him as we get back up to speed on lap 66 of the scheduled 260. Tell you what, Ryan, these Camaros have been awful dominant in the early going. I know in the real race today, those Fords were bad fast until they got back in dirty air, and that really seemed to change things up. How does that compare to here in the sim world? Can you have a car that's necessarily tuned to be out in front and have an advantage, but once you put it back, let's say 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th place, it's really going to fall off depending on how you have that car set up?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you when you know you have pole winning speed, you do set your car up to that. So I think Caden, kind of like the Cup race and the real race tonight, like Logano was great out front. The moment he kind of got crashed, he got stuck behind. So props to Cade for how he's done, just keeping that car and managing the gaps, managing people behind him to not set himself back in that case. And it does take people. There's a lot of secret alliances. There's more secret alliances made out here on the track than physically the government sometimes. So you don't know who exactly is fully working with who, but maybe the car behind Cadence has a little bit of alliance. And they have like, hey, I'll, if you keep me out front, I'll do this for you later, or something like that. So it kind of depends on your friends. But
the deals behind the scenes, and I couldn't agree with you more. And the longer I've gotten more involved in league racing, the more I find myself doing that as well. Yes, you have your teammates, but it's not always going to be a situation where you're going to have that that friendly nameplate, that same manufacturer being able to work with. So you better have somebody in your extended network to work with, and that's a great point and great insight, and that certainly could be a big part of the end result here today as we jump on board now with the Dent Slayer, man, Paul Hill in that Ford Mustang Dark Horse, up 10 spots in that 5th place position. Ryan, right now he's lagging back just a little bit off of that 74. Looks to me like he's just trying to be steady out there on the racetrack, but conservative. No need to force the issue right now as we're only 71 laps into this race. Does that seem to be your perspective as well?
yeah, and Paul is such a great speed racer, just a great racer overall. I've learned a lot from him. I cannot take full. I have to give him some of the credit as to why I've been pretty good on these Speedway races. I've been following and learning from him, and like, hey, you see that when we're in our team channel, he'll be like, hey, you see that line? Go with it now because they're doing this or something like that. So right now, I think he sees kind of who's in front of him, just kind of taking a chill pill for a little bit because the real race for the stage is going to start probably around the halfway point when we're teaming up with, hey, certain drivers to go pit and make sure that pit road here is going to be tricky. That's another thing we really haven't been able to talk about today with the caution and all that, but Green sucks.
Yeah, I mean, we got time right now as this field clearly is in conservation mode, single file, everyone allowing some extra space out there on the racetrack. As Ryan just said, the real race for this stage is going to come later on. Right now, it's all about just churning some laps up, chewing some of these laps off of the board, if you will. And, this pit road is a lot different than how it was last year, Ryan. The where you have to come down off of the racetrack, They have a dedicated, basically a lane that you have to stay in until you actually hit that commitment cone and enter actual pit lane. How is that going to affect the flow of this race under green flag conditions?
It'll affect it quite a bit because I kind of learned in the races I did this week of how much you kind of try to learn what you can get away with. I learned there's no speed, so it's just a commitment. Once you go down there, you have to hit. However, you don't actually have to. You can go back up the track, but if you are in 3 and 4 and you come down and pit, it penalizes you. So the moment you cross that kind of commitment line, you can still go to 100 miles an hour. The moment you get on pit road, that's when you slow down. So I've seen some mixture of people think they need to get the pit road speed and they slow themselves down. They wonder, why did I lose 2 laps versus the 1 once I got pit? Like that. Versus the other people who maximize it as much as possible.
Well, thank you for that breakdown. I'm glad I let you have the opportunity to speak first because you saved my tail, to be quite honest. I was under the impression you had to be at pit road speed once you hit that threshold, and basically that you were indicating coming down pit road. You brought it off the racetrack the minute you put it in that lane that's highlighted on the racetrack. You had to be at pit road speed. So thank you for the clarification. Apparently, there's some misinformation out there, or some of us just don't have an exact interpretation on those rules. And you're right, that could be costly. The other thing I imagine is, yes, you can go as fast as you want up until you hit that commitment cone, or that first timing line, I should say. But transitioning this race car from the banking down to the flatlands, especially when you still have a ton of momentum, I mean, that can put that car in a dicey situation. You better be careful, because I can probably assume that it'd be easy for that car to come right back up the racetrack if you push the envelope too far.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I spent the majority of my practice session for the race getting the reps in of that, which unfortunately I never got to use in this race, but I spent a lot of time playing around with that because, I mean, you can lose the pack, you can lose everyone, your race can turn upside down just from a failed green flag pit stop. You go from with the lead pack to 3 laps down because you didn't quite get the speed, you lost the people in front of you, speeding penalty, unsafe picks, all that stuff.
Yeah, and that's another great point. When you have competition this good, oh man, that got dicey. The 48 trying to get out of the way, I believe just coming off of pit road, had a serious mile-per-hour offset there and almost had a collision there with that car that looked to be about 4th or 5th place in line, barely escaping contact there as it got hot and heavy quickly out there on the racetrack right in front of the lead pack of cars. Continuing to show the way is that 84 Chevrolet. And back to the point what I was saying, I think drivers and maybe sometimes fans at home don't realize, especially when competition is this good and you consistently have trends of longer green flag runs, pit road will either make you or break you. There's time that you can gain or lose, and often plays a critical factor who comes across that start-finish line first.
Yeah, absolutely. It plays a major factor. It's a race. It's a game of milliseconds sometimes, and so I've been in races where the hell was heck this week, where I went from top 10 to being 25th and just praying and hoping for cautions to get me out of the mess I made with the pit stops or the penalties from the pit road.
Thank you for that, Ryan, as we now send it to the nose cam of Dylan Banks as he comes up and gives that Camaro a high five. A little bit of bump drafting going on here through the tri-oval, and that will only get dicier as these Dr. Feelgoods transition to Feel Bads. And again, as Ryan was talking about, you can only do so much when you're leading the train. Obviously, being able to take a push is going to help tremendously, whether drivers are going to want to stick with you versus go around you and try to just, reshuffle some things if they don't like how you're performing out there on the racetrack. And you also have to be able to hold the line. A couple of keys to success of leading out here at Atlanta, Daytona, or Talladega. If you can do that and hold that wheel straight, you should be in pretty good shape. The one thing that's not going to help you is being that first car punching that initial hole in the air like the 84 is right now. Is they going to have a big-time run? is they're going to have to turn and burn up to the high side of the racetrack. Great job by all these drivers being able to avoid that lap machine. And the 84 did a great job of controlling that shift as well. But, to my point, Ryan, if you can do that, you'll be successful, up at the front. But the fuel mileage, you're not going to be able to go the distance as, let's say, Chris Davis, Paul Hill. And the further you go back in this draft, the better MPGs you're going to get. Another thing you better pay attention to out there on the racetrack, especially if you're leading a lot of laps under green flag conditions.
Yeah, with kind of getting, we talk about the pit road strategy. We didn't really talk about the fuel aspect of it. And
right.
Kind of save it. You're not as worried as much about saving fuel here as you are at Daytona, because you do lift here a little bit. Even as the leader, you are lifting a little bit in entry because you do have the handling aspect that you need. However, you're not worried about fuel because you're not using as much. Your quicker laps are taking off a lot quicker. And so you realize this is a 100 lap stage. You can cut it into 50, split the stage in half. And you can do about 60 to 70-ish fuel run. So even as the lead car, you're not necessarily worried about not keeping up with the Joneses of the other people who probably have saved a little bit more, because you'll definitely, if you fill the tank at least a little bit, you'll have enough to get to the end of the stage.
Absolutely, 100%. And if you're able to do it a little bit better than the competition out there on the racetrack, potentially that's less time in your pit box, which you mentioned a couple minutes ago. Milliseconds on pit road is critical. Could help you gain some spots out there on the racetrack as well. As currently green flag conditions hopefully are trending in our favor. And just as I say that, I cannot believe it. I can't make this up, Ryan. I swear to God. The minute I mentioned the green flag was large and in charge, caution immediately follows. It looked like we had a car parked down on the racetrack, almost right on that red line. So I take a look here through the black box. Oh, Ken Ron may have had an incident here. Let's go ahead and queue up the instant replay. You can see him here as we cut back to the replay. That Camaro already off the racetrack. He is down on the flatlands, or that pit road, entrance to pit road, or that lane to pit road, I should say, is we were talking about just a couple moments ago. Let's go ahead and cue this up here and hit playback. Did Ron blow an engine, run out of fuel? He definitely has some moderate damage to the hood section where it meets the front clip of that race car. See if we can jump on board here. Well, that's right. You can't see the... Yeah, you can see the tachometer. That's right. Sometimes better not to second guess yourself. That car is running. It did have RPM in it. Let's see if we can back this up a little further and see what caused him to have to abort and come down pit road here quick, fast, and in a hurry. Let's widen things back out, and I apologize, folks. We're going to have to go VHS mode here. We're going to roll it back. Clearly, there was some type of contact. Something happened as he was off the pace for a hot minute. It appears he has been out there for a little bit of time, as we can only wind this back so far, and that's where the leaders all basically went around him. They took it to the high side of the racetrack. They're going to get by cleanly. Oh, he blew up. He absolutely blew up. You can see the smoke billowing out of that Camaro. And you know what? That resonates with me deeply on the final lap of my league race at Daytona, Ryan. I'm coming out of turn 4, pushing a fellow Toyota to the moon, and I blew up a couple 100 feet before the start-finish line. And I'll never forget the look of the way that smoke came out of the race car, because I watched that replay of the broadcast probably 10 million times. And it hurts. It still hurts just as bad. Ken Rod lost an engine there. And that's going to be game over for that Chevrolet. So clearly that damage impacting the way that the air gets diverted into the radiator of that race car or the oil cooler. And he's going to lose an engine. As we now bring it back to the live side of things under caution.
So this is, I mentioned the whole field, probably not a green flag pit stop here. However, you are on the edge of your fuel tank run. 70 laps to go in the stage. You're kind of cringing a little bit.
You know, it's funny how fuel somehow always works its way in, somehow, some way, it seems, with this next gen, as that field getting ready to go back. The green flag racing once again. A little bit of a stack up there in the bottom lane, a couple of poke checks being administered, and you got the two beast mode boys on the second lane working the upstairs. Chris Davis, your last week's winner, Sean Rogers. They're teamed up going, and we have a Toyota now on the bottom lane as well. So where did these TRD machines come from? It's almost like they're pulling a trick out of Kevin Harvick's playbook, as this has been Camaro dominant really since the drop of the green flag, and yet the Toyotas now are large and in charge as we're back up to speed coming out of turn 4 here at Atlanta.
You got like five. I mentioned earlier that you have to have like this 5 strong cars in that top line in order to see. I say that all good now, but I was interested to see what was going to happen there with the 74, 44, 11, and 30, and then the 6 car in that top line, because that's 5 really good cars right there. It's 5 really good drivers right there. I thought they would have shot to bring that outside line all the way up to the front, but I guess he's the people who backed out.
It's a great point, and I was kind of paying attention to that as well, just to see, you know, how effective that outside lane could be, you know, perhaps later in the race, you know. And I know it's another thing these drivers do as well, you know, especially with this kind of plate track feel, you know, they're going to generate runs. They're going to see how long it takes to get that momentum to come to the front. Obviously, that's going to be a big part of the closing laps of this race, and I was just wanting to see here, if you mentioned the right cars in the outside lane. Great drivers, Jeremy Miller there as well. There's a guy that can definitely, you know, get it done. A past winner here in the SNN Cup Series, and just didn't seem like they were able to get the troops. And in fact, the 23 just caught a piece of the fence there as well. So that's
left the 11 car out to dry there a little bit too. Yeah. Now.
Oh. Not what we wanted to see here on the network, and not what these drivers wanted out on the racetrack. Ryan, it just seems like anytime someone gets hung out to dry or we get 3 wide, you don't want to say it's a guarantee, but there seems to be a high probability of when that happens so far throughout the course of this race, a caution's soon going to follow. As we slow things down here once again, there comes that number 6 Dent Slayer Camaro, as he's on pit lane. That's Paul Hill in that 6th place position. In fact, he's going to have some company with him. Don Miller in the 23. Richard Pruitt going to be coming down pit road. Crawford, Dylan Banks, Tyler Sexton. Here comes the cavalry down pit road. Perhaps they heard what you said there, Ryan, and decided, hey, you know what? We don't want to play this game. Let's just go down there and make a pit stop and make sure we're good to go the distance.
Yeah, it's interesting to see some people say out there, though. That's the interesting part to me. I mean, I feel if you sit there and coast, probably could have a better shot making it, but I felt the Paul Hill and the rest of them, they all thought, no, top off. Let's make sure we're definitely good to the end. And we're willing to lose that track position a little bit.
Yeah, sometimes better safe than sorry, especially when you still have a fair amount of laps, you know, left on the board. You know, the other thing too, I mean, what's the 1.5 mile racetrack? If you run out of fuel, it's still a good amount of distance around this place, and that's going to cost you a lot of track position. More than likely, well, yeah, you're going to go a lap down, and sometimes not the easiest to get laps back here, especially when these cautions, are very erratic. You get on these caution trends, and sometimes they disappear just as fast as they start. And race very yellow flag heavy here. I think more than I anticipated, you anticipated, and probably the drivers out there on the racetrack for that matter. So let's go ahead and take a look here at the last incident on the racetrack. Before we cut back to this replay, what did you see there, Ryan? What stood out to you before that yellow flag flew on the racetrack?
Well, yeah, like just how aggressive everybody has been. Granted, I'm in the booth now because I was aggressive, so I can't really glass house right there. Complain about the aggressiveness early in this race, but we've had plenty and plenty of two-wide racing. We didn't really see anyone single file out until early in this stage, early in the second stage. Ever since then, it's been two-wide racing the entire time.
Yeah, it certainly has, and I thought, after that first or second caution, when they were giving each other room, running single file for a little bit, I thought this was going to be the time that we're going to see that urgency and the the competitiveness kind of trend down. But it's as soon as it picked up, or as soon as it dwindled, it picked right back up again, and we've had caution after caution since then. Is John Crow Sr. now going to have the button up 17 positions? He's going to restart in that Toyota bottom lane. Going to have a friendly TRD-powered machine on the high side of the racetrack in Jeff Carson. And Ryan, something that you do very well, and that is rebound and recover. Jeff involved, I believe, in the first incident of the race, and here he is outside of row number 1. Take us back to green, man. The floor is yours.
Oh, here we go. Green flag. John Crow. Hesitates a little bit. Green flag. Here we go. Jeremy Miller, who I was going to give him a big shove there. He is going to want this lead right here. Jeff Carson's pretty strong on that high line, though. Oh, it looks like the 23 might try to abandon him. I mean, at this point, you're trying to see if there's any gaps you can get low. As I say, that 23 gets low in front of Chris Claw. And that whole outside line just kind of disintegrated on Chris Carson, so he's fallen back quite a few spots, and we'll probably continue to fall back.
Heck yeah, Ryan. I didn't mean to throw the shock and awe at you, but sometimes that's the best way to do it. You handled that like a champ. A driver I don't even want to mention, and you did, and that's the HMFIC head cook, chief, and bottle washer in the Monster 10. Having a great run here as he's cracked the top 10, and that's all I'm going to say about that, and we're going to keep on moving back up to the front of this piece. As, to your point, Ryan, I thought that restart was extremely aggressive. As you've seen, some drivers here not only given the initial start on the flag drop, Miller coming up and giving a bump. That's more of, just helping that lane getting going. But you've seen the drivers, behind him, third and 4 rows back, perhaps trying to pull out and, make a dive bomb or leave someone hung out to dry, or potentially setting up a situation to go 3 wide once again. And we're barely cracked lap 100.
Yeah, I knew that restart, that 30 would be super aggressive there. Jeremy Miller is he doesn't have a care kind of style of racing that he does, and so I knew he was going to give a big shove to the 95 to try to get out there. I mean, I don't know what happened here. He's like back, but we see the outside line coming right back.
As we jump on board with Miller time, there is the 3 Ron Fittick in the Toyota. They got a big time head of steam on the high side of the racetrack. In fact, look at this run. Probably the strongest we've seen all day in the 83. He got loose. Andrew Deemer, you see that race car bobble? And he's going to, I can't believe he didn't throw it back down in line there. I thought Andrew Deemer had an opening, a lane there, and he didn't stuff it to the bottom. And now he's going to get caught in the middle. Dicey once again, 3 wide as he's in the express lane all the way to the rear. A couple cars skimming the fence there, but we keep on trucking.
Yeah, we see the car that let everyone down pit road. The people who paid to hop on the field and Paul already back up to the 6th spot already.
Yeah, you can see the urgency here. It's almost like there's a feeling that these drivers just do not feel safe and secure out there on the racetrack unless they're at the front of this thing. It seems like there's a constant, sense of urgency as Dalton Mobley in the 2 almost got a bad push and yeeted out of the lane, and he did. He got shut up to the high side of the racetrack. Paul Hill cuts him a break and burps the throttle and allows him to gather himself and that race car. And that's a true professional in my opinion, Ryan. It's early in this race. You still have plenty of time. And versus Paul Hill keeping his foot in it there, he backs off a little bit, gives the 2 a chance to collect himself, and continues to march on. Where, sometimes you don't always have that benefit out there from the competition.
Yeah, but knowing those 2 drivers, I know a lot of fun things said on the radio about each other probably in that moment. So.
I agree. I've had the pleasure of racing with you guys a couple times, and though they are very humbling and disappointing as you often wipe the floor with me, there was that one race at Talladega where I finished 7th, and that felt like a win. But I did get to hear all of the audio and all the nice things you guys say about each other at times. But hey, that's racing, right? That's competition. That's in the heat of the moment, heat of the battle. And when you're passionate about what you do, that's to be expected. As Mobley now leads for the first time here today on lap 106, Ryan.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, with Paul Hill, top on field, but no place wants to be more than the front.
It's almost like the nighttime is the right time, right? Being at the front here at this racetrack is clearly where everyone wants to be, and they are willing, to risk, their race car at times to put themselves in the position to be up here and out of harm's way. As Paul Hill's already basically made the climb back through the field already. And, to your point, Ryan, just down pit road moments ago, that Camaro, your pole sitter, Caden, in that 84 machine, led a majority of the early going here. He got shuffled back a little bit, however, has not fallen off of a cliff. He is still there, entrenched in that 3rd place position. Where did he come from? There is Matt Cox, up 20 spots, now in 4th. I believe another beast mode performance entry. And as we were on board with Miller, Ron Fitting inside the top 5 as well, as more cars continue to make light contact with the wall in that outside lane. I believe that's right around the area of Chris Custer as we're 3 wide once again. Another car.
Shock, Jeremy Hill.
Go ahead.
I said, what a shock, Jeremy Miller making that 3 wide.
Hey, he's got that Talladega Nights mentality. If you're not first, you're last, and he's going to keep his foot in it. He's a passionate race car driver, and Jeremy always keeps you on your toes. And I learned that quickly being out there on the racetrack with you guys. Obviously, he's a great talent behind the wheel. Premier Racing setups on that race car. It's great to see him back out there for those drivers that may forgot about him, though. He'll give them a reminder. They'll know when that 30's coming, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah. I mean, a great teammate of mine. I've raced with him for years. We all raced with the same class. So, great guy. He sent me a little fun message before we started racing. He's like, hey, I missed racing against you. I'm like, I did not. So, get out of here. But here he is in the racing. We haven't talked about Dalton Mobley today, though. Him in the lead right now. Great
Impressive. Absolutely impressive out of Mobley. And he is one of the guys that I currently have that curse bad with. So sometimes you'll notice there's certain guys I try to avoid talking about. That's because I've KO'd them before, and I've gotten not so nice messages from them after the race. Kind of playing up that.
Cannot wait to see my DMs after the race.
Oh, it's coming. I can promise you that. As Paul Hill now comes up and helps the Deuce up 19 positions there on the bottom of the racetrack. It's a 2x2 side-by-side John 4 special through the turns 1 and 2 complex now as they drag race down the backstretch And Ryan, right on cue, as we start to chew these laps off the board here and get down to the farther side of the second stage, you can see the intensity starting to pick up out there on the racetrack. And some of the guys that have been running mid-pack, climbing and charging towards the front now. There's the 34 of John Crawford coming back into the picture outside top shelf of the racetrack in that 7th place position. Keith Long in the 71, now up to 10th in that up 18 positions. And we go 3 wide again. The 29 gets left, hung out to drive like a redheaded stepchild. And he's going to go up there and rip it top shelf where Mama hides the cookies, keeps it out of the wall and out of making contact with any car in that second lane. And he's going to get down quick, fast, and in a hurry. However, that's going to cost him a ton of positions. Tanner Marty now all the way back to that 33rd position, Ryan.
Yeah, you mentioned Tanner Marty, you mentioned Keith Long, 2 racers I've had the pleasure of racing for years now. I've gotten to know a little bit better. Shout out to him with the whole Maryland connection, both representing Maryland flag out there a little bit. Well, he's doing that a little bit better than me right now. And then Taylor Murray, someone I race against in multiple leagues, is always someone you have to watch. Quick and smart racer, has a couple items of some of my wrecks before though. So sorry about all that, Tanner, but I'm putting a pretty good performance on today.
There was a point in time, if you go back to when I first broadcasted or called this series with the late, great Tony Trapasso, and my God, do we miss him. But you mentioned the driver, R.J. Root. He used to call him Two-Tap Root, and I'll never forget that. I hope R.J.'s doing well. And then you mentioned Jeremy Miller and then Tanner Marty, a guy that you have experience with out there on the racetrack. There was a time, you're absolutely right, it would seem like every time he was having a great run, if something happened to you, he would immediately find himself involved with your race car at the same time. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Kind of single filing out right now, which is kind of expected what I do. I expected them to do the whole race, but not quite.
Yeah, so what we're seeing right now looks like the first, 10, 11 cars in line. Yeah, the first 11, that's John Crawford in the rear with the gear, bringing up the caboose right now in that Ford. On my battle plan, I thought this is what it was going to be, for the first, 200, 220 laps of the race. And I did not have the start on my bingo card. It was kind of just the opposite. When we dropped this green flag, these guys, we were fighting out there like trench World War II style warfare. And even the cautions didn't seem to faze them. And they kept, they kept the anticipation and they kept the adrenaline cranked up through the stratosphere. But now, finally, single car, or I should say single file out there on the racetrack through the first 11 cars in line. 2 by 2, side by side. The first cars seem to be battling in that configuration right around your buddy Keith Long in the 71.
Hey, you kind of see.
Oh, the 66 almost got spun. What a save. Are you serious? Sorry to cut you off, Ryan.
No, you're good. Every time I say it, looks like it's going to calm out a little bit, something happens. So I will not learn my lesson. I'll continue to do that jinx. So it's all good.
Hey, just keep going with it, man. Remember, you don't catch any of the flag. That's what I'm here for. I'm the filter.
I appreciate that.
Not a problem, brother.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you don't really like when you're in this front pack, you're watching the back, what's going on behind you a little bit, and you're probably seeing there's no real second line forming. You're trying to chill out. Okay, where's the cue of the wreck that's about to happen? As I say that, now you're just kind of thinking about what am I gonna do here? You got 40 laps to the stage ends. You got some guys who were probably right on their fuel number. Probably some guys are okay, good. I mean, if you're Paul Hill, you're in the good. Even if you're a leader who I know fell back a little bit, he's up front, not necessarily concerned about fuel here a little bit.
Absolutely well said. And while you're giving us that breakdown, I had to come back and look at this save from the 66. I mean, the 88 of Paul Hale just went in there and said, hey, special delivery, probably not on purpose, but nerfed the 66 in the business end. and that race car was pointed 45 degrees in the wrong direction, including contact with the apron, sparks flying, and somehow kept it straight. We saw some incredible saves last week. That one right there was like Superman was driving that race car. Absolutely incredible. However, we may have to call that as the don't stain your ride, use Tide moment of the race thus far, as I can guarantee you he's going to be down pit road for a new race suit the moment an opportunity he has one, as it's all single file racing now at the front of this field.
Caution now.
Thank you for that, as that did not update here on my end. Let's go ahead and give that a refresh. There we go. Thank you for that, Ryan. I appreciate it. Caution on the racetrack. iRacing.com pace car now leads the charge once again, as it's that bad, fast Camaro 84 out there carrying the torch. Matt Cox is now being scored the leader. That could just be the timing and scoring updating, though. But nonetheless, I think the moral of the story here is, Ryan, Caden in that Chevrolet has proven he is going to be a force to be reckoned with all race long, as he has been able to not only maintain the lead, however, when he gets shuffled back, able to bring that Camaro back to the front. So it seems like he has both aspects of this race figured out. He's fast, out in front leading, and he still has the performance and handling in the dirty air to make the moves to get back to the point. And as a race car driver, that's going to give you all the confidence in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we get later in the stages, that handling, the ability to handle that cart is going to show more and more as we get to later stages. There's going to get to a point where we're not going to have as much cautions. I knock on wood, hopefully. But for the handling of it when you're ready to block and to take advantage of those runs. And we don't know, like I mentioned earlier with these alliances, we don't know who's left in those alliances at this point. They could have been wrecked, they could have been there. I was part of a couple alliances before I got wrecked. I'm out of there. So it'll be interesting to see how he's able to, it's interesting how he's been able to show his card can do a lot right now.
Hey, thank you for that, Ryan, as we check back in once again with the YouTube.com live chat. And we got some fans shouting you out up here in the booth. And I did turn his mic up. However, if I push it much further, he might stop popping and banging. So just a heads up, guys. I'm going to try to make him as crystal clear as possible, as this, after all, his debut up here in the booth. And he's doing a heck of a job thus far. PDS International in the house, talking about the chartered drivers as well, saying he couldn't do a much better job. Thanks for shouting out this league. I agree, is certainly one of the best ones to watch, and your only place to be here Sunday night in primetime. Amanda Price once again rooting on Sean Rogers. She's already calling it. He gets win number 2 this evening. Custer getting shout out in the 66, and again, what a save from the 66 just moments ago. Appreciate all of you being a part of the broadcast and along for the ride here on Redline Racing Network. Ryan, right now, the calm before the storm. It's like being in the middle of an EF5 hurricane. You're in the eye right now, but just moments from now, that backside of that eye wall is going to come through. It is going to start a ripping and roaring. You better be set, ready to rock and roll. Give these drivers another chance to reach up there. Pull those belts tight one more time. Wipe the visor. Matty Cox going to restart outside front row in that Toyota. Bottom lane going to have the trigger. Green flag.
Big checkup.
Oh, my God. You are right. Huge checkup there on that outside lane. Driver's doing a great job there getting that sorted out. That type of a checkup there, that could, accordion the field here and pop one off. But these drivers were ready for that, as we're still under green flag conditions. It looks like Brian Nudemaker may have got shuffled out of the line there. He got sent down to the flatlands, able to get it back up on the racetrack. A dicey moment there, but we still keep it lean, mean, and green. Matt Cox now leads for the first time today. Welcome to the point on the high side of the racetrack.
Yeah, all that single file I mentioned that could happen during the stage, throw that out there. It's going to be double file for the rest of the stage from here on out.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that was as long as these drivers were going to just, go out there and run on cruise control, if you will. Now you re-rack and restack these guys again. I mean, you're putting all the Hornets right next to the front of this field, and you can see it has gotten wild out there once again as they're slicing and dicing already. The only car single file is going to be your leader in that Chevrolet. Matt Cox showing he's got some speed in that Toyota. And like the marketing slogan says, let's go places. He has took that 32 to the point, up 22 positions. How about Ron Fitting, Ryan? Having a great run here up in that 4th place position. Really showing that 3, carrying that 3 well, I should say, this evening.
Oh yeah, he's having a great run here. A long time vet of the series. He's had his struggles throughout his timing here, but it's always great to see him have these great runs and to be up front and to be mixing it with these the top guys in our league. And he's just been a consistent force in this league, working hard, always kind of working on his steps, always kind of working on his craft and all that. To see him up here in the fighting for the lead is always great to see. It's fitting, as you could say.
And there you go. A little wordplay. Ryan's starting to feel comfortable. Look out, ladies and gentlemen. Out of Sumter, South Carolina, Ron Fitting, as Ryan was saying moments ago, having a great run. We go on board with him as he now lurks on the back of that Toyota just in front of him. You can see how these drivers are starting to utilize that side draft a little bit. And look how, in fact, they're going to bring it right down to the bottom. They had such a big run there. The 3 might get left and hung out to dry on the high side as those 2 front cars, as Dave Regal would call it, the shovel, as you use the outside lane as an express pass to the bottom. The minute you clear them, they leave your battle buddy. And Ryan, I bet you Rod's going to remember that one later on in this race.
Yeah, and it all started as we have a caution out on the track. It all started because that bottom lane got shuffled out. The 24 went too low. Tony Rogers said, "Oh, there's a gap there. Let me take that." And so that lost all the momentum the bottom lane had, forced Paul Hillier back, and just kind of let the outside line, who had a ton of momentum, to get going.
Yeah, if you really want to blow the momentum up on a lane or just kind of mess with the group of drivers that are in that lane with you for whatever reason, sometimes just as small as a move as filling a gap, like you said, can completely put that line in disarray and disorganization, just like what we've seen happen there. And on the other side of that, you mentioned battle buddies and dance partners, however you want to coin it earlier. You got to have those friends out there on the racetrack. Ron is going to remember who worked with him and who bailed on him. And that you don't want to start making those types of enemies, because right now, everyone's not going to worry about it, but they're going to return the favor when it counts, and that's later in the race. And I don't care who you are, with this race car in this package, you need to have a dancing partner, someone that's going to push you, or you vice versa, to get you across that start and finish line first. And Ron's going to continue to hold down the top 5 in that 5th place position, but I think he may have bled a couple more spots if we didn't get that caution flag when we did. Is that field now back down to a snail's pace here on Redline Racing Network.
Yeah, I'm taking a look at the previous wreck. The reason as to why your caution, just kind of a big stack up on the back. I'm watching, taking a look at Chris Custer kind of get towards the wall, comes back down a little bit, and then while Jeff Carson's pushing the 34 car, and when you're Jeff Carson, you can't see that second car in front of you, and you're going to keep shoving until you see daylight, but the daylight you see is the side of the 66 car, so.
That 66 car being Chris Custer has had the save of the race thus far Also, he's getting some support and love from the YouTube.com live chat. Why not go ahead and get him some extra screen time in that Chevrolet? Just coming off of pit road, got some new Dr. Feelgoods, 2 cans of Sunoco racing fuel in that Chevrolet, so he's ready to rip tater chip Cletus McFarland style when we go back green flag racing. Ryan, who's the other driver you have your eye on? I know we've tried to cover the strategies and, you know, a lot of these guys that you have experienced, longtime veterans out there with on the racetrack. If we go back further in this field, some drivers that we haven't talked about yet who were really strong last week at times. You know, if you go back to that, 21st place position, Diego Rodriguez in the 21 out of Adrian, Michigan. Haven't really seen him up towards the front a lot yet. Chris Custer, Jeff Carson back there, he's been towards the point out of Cross Junction, Virginia. Is someone has spun out. Oh my God, the 66 has went around. Yet again, another broadcaster's curse. I can't believe this. I am sorry, Chris Custer.
I got to talk to him before the race. One of my teammates, as I was filling in for Mike Gaskins, and he was so looking forward to this race. He's definitely someone who has improved on this style of track racing. I feel like he found his groove and just kind of seeing his night get worse and worse a little bit. It's frustrating to watch as someone who is constantly cheering him on and hoping he can and just kind of improve upon everything.
You know, I'll tell you what, when you look forward to races like that, like I look forward to Daytona, Talladega, that's where I spend a lot of my time and effort. And you go out there and you have a rough going like Chris is now, and it seems like you're getting further and further behind the 8 ball. I will say this. I understand that it may be a tense and stressful situation out there, and it's not looking that good. But I believe he can come back from this, and if he does and he's able to rally to a good finish, at the end of the day, that performance is going to be that much more special to you. Keep your eye on the driver of that 66 machine. We're going to follow him, see if he can make a comeback here. As Ryan said, he's put a lot of time and attention to detail into these types of races over the course of the offseason. We'll see if he can get it turned around as he's going to restart now in that 25th position, tail of that outside lane as we get ready to go. Green flag racing once again here from Atlanta. Lights are out on that iRacing.com pace car. Leaders last down pit road on lap 95, and that is the story through the top 4. On the racetrack, Ron Fitting last down on lap 88, so a couple laps of a difference there. We'll keep an eye on that story should it become one later on in this race. iRacing.com pace car is going to pull off that racetrack once again as we get ready to go back green flag racing once again here in the hot ATL 400. Back up.
Just did not get going there a little bit.
Yeah, you can see that as well as you had 2 cars spring free. I think this outside lanes might have a big run coming. However, Sean Rogers is going to fill the gap, and he's going to send it up to the top shelf of the racetrack. Paul Hill was welded to the back of the 84, though. And look at the surge of momentum from that push through the corner. And just as I say that, the outside lanes responds and said, hey, if you could do it, I could do it better. The 72 of Rob Esau, he gave the 32 of Matt Cox a push of a lifetime. Is he almost, in fact, they did clear the bottom lane there for a moment, right?
Yeah, heck of a job by Matt Cox up there, getting out in front. Now he's kind of put himself as the control car. The 84 has done a great job of kind of controlling the race when he's been up front, but now him being at second place is probably a little bit weird for him. He's like, what do I do with my hands? Kind of feeling right here.
Well, hopefully he's got him on the steering wheel. That's all I can say.
When you're single file, you kind of drive. I drive with my feet a little bit, my knees a little bit. Sunday driving.
Perhaps if you have a sim rig, that's possible. I don't have one. I'm a desk racer, so it'd be impossible for me to do that. But, you know, if you have a rig, that's probably something you could do. Now that I think about it, is, you know, I may do that in the car from time to time. That's all we're going to say about that. As first two cars are single file, and it is hot and heavy, just like your Waffle House hash brown, smothered and covered. 2x2 lanes of fury.
Never been to one.
Really?
No.
Well, I haven't. Go ahead.
We got them in southern Maryland. I'm a little bit northern Maryland, so you know, I need to get one. I was going to enter a fancy football league, and that was the punishment to eat like all the waffles there, and that's 24-hour period, or didn't quite during the league time. So I avoided that for sure.
You've been warned on the Waffle House Waffle Challenge.
Yeah.
It's not as easy as it looks. As we go on board, and Caden is given all sorts of love and attention to the back of Matty Cox. He was giving him a big-time shot there, the business end of the race car. Here he comes up again, face full of diffuser on the camera as we're on his nose cam, or GoPro. And if you flip the things around, it doesn't get any better. I mean, it is a game of inches out the front, and certainly the same situation out the back door as well, as he has a face full of Sean Rogers, your last week's winner, who currently runs in that third place position. You know, getting back to the Waffle House ride, I'm originally from, you know, the western section of New York State, so the Great Lakes area, if you will, between Lake Ontario and Lake Erie. I had no idea what a Waffle House even was, as there's not one within, I think, 700 miles of where I grew up. However, when I moved to Florida, I got introduced pretty quickly, and I got to tell you, it is the place to go, especially if you've been out for a long night.
Yeah, I haven't gotten one, and then like I know there's a big thing about In-N-Out Burger and all that. Ooh, we got a car in the wall back there. But the whole thing about In-N-Out and all that, I still haven't been able to try that with Texas and California. Ooh.
Oh, we got multiple cars now in the wall as we go Three Stooges. Oh, my God.
Ooh. Jeremy Miller involved. Ooh, big players in this race involved.
A race car came back up the racetrack and acted as an RPG, an unguided rocket. And that just may have claimed 3 race cars. I think Jeremy Miller may have been involved in that one as well. And it all started with that lone car getting into the wall as we were on board up near the front of the field. And just as I had widened things back out, we had caught the back end of it breaking out live on TV, or live on air, I should say. Great catch there, Ryan.
Yeah, it kind of all started when I mentioned that 24 was in the wall a little bit. They all had the cars behind them had to check up. Jeremy Miller went to try to make it 3 wide, squeeze him between the 71, and then looks like the Timothy Cook as well, and tried to save it coming out the track, but came right back out the track, and you know, just like you said, torpedoed some people.
Yeah, we're going to bring this back further just so we can see how this whole thing played out from start to finish. It wasn't one thing that sparked this. It was a series of events. We're going to slow this down right here. Let's jump on board. You can see the 30 gets pinched. In fact, he gets sandwiched right in the middle between that Red Bull machine, the Toyota on the high side of the racetrack. Miller bails down to the flatlands. You almost get a sense that this is over. We're going to save it from here. And then watch this. His race car just dead hooks right back up the racetrack on him. I think he had a broken toe link or something that did not allow that car to just maintain its position down there on the apron of the racetrack. And then this Red Bull car, a very similar situation, comes up the racetrack. Miller gets knocked up there again, and that was the big violent impact. 2 Mustangs absolutely KO'd. And look at the 66. Did he? Oh, we may have got a little piece of it there. But this is going to come right up in front of the face of that Chevrolet we were talking about just a couple minutes ago. We're going to wind this
No,
back. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, Chris Custer's probably got about 6 lives left right now. That was 9 for this race.
He's used a couple of them, that's for certain. But I'll tell you what, Ryan, from a driver's perspective, when you get in situations like this at a place like Atlanta, and you always find a way to come out the other side with manageable damage or nothing, my God, that almost makes you feel invincible out there. It oftentimes propels me to a decent finish. Is we're going to take a look at this now from the 66 his onboard camera. If the system will cooperate with me here. So, talk about VIP front row seats. See if this, there we go. Let's take a look at this replay. You're going to be on board with the 66 of Chris Custer for this one. Hold on to your popcorn, folks. It's about to get real in the field. Watch this.
Yeah, pretty well on that. I'm kind of shocked.
What a job! Chris Custer kept his car out of it. He didn't hit a thing. Right, I ain't kidding you. He's done it again. He's done it twice in one race.
Again, you gotta start counting those lives.
There was 0 escape routes in front of him. The second time Miller's car got smacked back up the track, and that wasn't his fault. Someone else, made contact with him, which shot him back up into the preferred line like a lawn dart. Chris Custer out of Ohio, Houdini on the racetrack, lives to drive another lap. How? That is incredible. I am fired up. You can tell he's been putting a lot of seat time in because he is willing himself to just not die out here in the competition as he should have been, to Ryan's point, using a couple lives. Incredible stuff from Chris Custer in the accidents avoidant. They need to just make him as an app for, for your car out there on the road or something. The way that he's able to just walk his way through these things. Absolutely incredible stuff. Pace car. Go ahead.
I was going to say, we have about 10 laps to go. They're green now. A little around 10 laps to go left on the stage, and we thought the past 20 laps have been intense. This is going to get a little more intenser.
Yeah, the words of Phil Collins, we can feel that coming in the air tonight. As this is going to be all-out mayhem, more than likely, given what we've seen so far over the course of this race this evening. Matt Cox, Sean Rogers, Paul Hill, Tane Hodison at the helm, leading, or at the front of this thing. That's the top 5. And as Ryan just said, oh, God, caution once again. We got smoke billowing. The 50s around. Well, Ryan, we kind of felt that was going to be the trend here, given with how many laps were remaining in this stage. And it looks like Jalen Hangcamp got yeeted. There he is, bringing it back onto the racetrack as he comes off of pit road. Let's see if that registered as an incident on the racetrack. It should have. There we go. Let's take a look and see what happened here. Did you happen to catch that in real time, Ryan?
I'm watching replays of it now. It looks like Carson was just trying to get that side draft and slow him up, just kind of hooked him in the right rear, and just not kind of be aware, and just kind of whips around the 50. If you go spit, it just looks like a side draft going wrong, or a lack of spatial awareness, kind of feeling, or.
So we're going to take an alternate view here, looking back at the 50 and the traffic that's around him on the racetrack, and you can see that side draft being deployed, and he just, side draft gone wrong. He said it best right there. And unfortunately makes contact, moderate contact with the 50, and he's doing the slide for right for the rest of his time out there on the racetrack until he comes down, makes contact with that inside safer barrier. Then he continues to 360, trying to keep that car down and off of the racing surface, doing a great job. Then a close moment here, that Chevrolet, oh, he does clobber him. That's where he got the damage. Somebody didn't see it coming or didn't hold the brake. Because he had it locked down for an eternity at that point. Taking a look at this here. He's been spinning for an eternity. Then let's stop it here. Let's change the camera angle and see who this was that came up and administered the shot. Is that Matt Mackin? Matt just macked the 50. I'm not sure if he didn't see them in front of him. Oh, that's just unfortunate. Here's Jalen's thinking, hey, I'm going to survive this one. Just go down pit road, put 4 new Dr. Feelgoods on it. And then he takes a shot there to the face from the 01 of Matt Mackin to kind of finish off the ride that the 50 took from, it's all stemmed from a side draft gone wrong while under green flag conditions. Cycle it back now to the live side of things here on Redline Racing Network. And Ryan, is that something we're just going to see those trends pick up as we get further and further through this race?
Yeah, a little bit. You're kind of past that stage of chill racing. I hate to call it, but that's kind of usually called the stage. I like to think of racing in this league as several stages, obviously, like we actually have. But everyone kind of is getting a rhythm and figuring out what everyone's car is doing, and so it gets a little bit chaotic in the first part. Then we have our typical long runs in the end of the first stage to the second stage, and then we kind of pick up the intensity back in that final stage. However, it's just been intense the entire time.
Yeah, these drivers haven't had a minute to even try to catch their breath, it seems. Green flag back in the... No, you're good, brother. No problem. Green flag back in the air. And I'll tell you what, Matt Cox shot out of a cannon on that restart. And look at the team strategy there as the 44 kind of checks that line to the top shelf of the racetrack so the 32 can go up top and work with that beast mode winner from last week. Is they now have a 3-car breakaway, and that is scary. We know how fast Caden is. He's had that speed all race long. You have last week's winner, the Rocket, Sean Rogers. That car at Daytona was a missile, and Matt Cox, you know he's going to have some speed in that race car. That's 3 stout race cars. Make that 4 now out in front as Tane Hoddison joins this group as well.
Yeah, it kind of makes you wonder, are they... the 32 and the 44 being teammates, and I learned firsthand that these teammates are going to stick together no matter what. And so it's interesting to see that there.
Race fans, we haven't done a crank it up session yet through the 156 laps of competition, just due to the odd flow of this race, all the cautions and the unpredicted incidences that seem to happen around the corner. We're hanging on for the ride just like you guys are. We appreciate it. But now I think it's Sam to go ahead and let's crank it up. So grab that dial on at home. Turn it up with us right here on Redline Racing Network, brought to you by Team Watson Racing Setups. Let's do this thing. Returning off of our all-out, cranking up, wide-open coverage break. Caution in the air. This one not for incident. It is going to be the stage. And as these drivers send it down pit roads to get some new tires and 2 Kansas Sunoco racing fuel, we're going to step aside, do the same pace and bills. We'll be back momentarily with coverage all the way through the green flag and more right here on Racing. Oh my goodness, I can't even talk right now. Right here on Redline Racing Network. Stick around. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. you're live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Redline Racing Network as we're now getting down to the final moments of this race. Everything these drivers have done over the course of their time on the racetrack has now put them in position for the finish and where they are running now this evening. However, as we've seen, the proverbial big one can happen at any given moment out there on the racetrack. Matt up in the Tony Trapasso Memorial broadcast booth and making his debut. First time ever in the broadcast booth, and thankful to have such an expert when it comes to the track analysis and car performance on the racetrack up here as well this evening. Known as your sister's favorite driver, the one and only Ryan Samuelson. How you doing, my man?
Doing pretty good right now, man. How about yourself?
I'll tell you what, I'm just thankful we were able to get this broadcast restarted after the internet connection hung us out to dry right after we broke into coverage. I was sweating bullets, and in fact, it's still kind of messing with me a little bit, as it always seems to wreak havoc on your marquee events throughout the course of the week. And Sunday Night NASCAR, let's just be honest, that is top of the list in my book. As we go the distance here each and every night, or Sunday night, right here on Redline Racing Network. Now working lap 178 of the scheduled 260. That's right, folks, under 100 laps to go. And look who is out in the front. Once again, the Rocket, the 84, Caden Diedrich, leads with a big-time push there from the 6 of Paul Hill, doing all the heavy lifting. Matt Cox in tow, Dylan Banks, and a guy I mentioned probably 50 laps ago, when would he start to make his presence be known? Ryan, here he is in 5th, up not 3, not 13, 31 positions. There is Diego Rodriguez in 5th.
I mean, not 39 positions like I was at Daytona last year, but, 30 is still pretty good. Yeah, we have a 5-car breakaway, which I know talking to some people before the race, it was like, you get the certain people with you, and you can do it. But I saw as we were coming back from commercial and just kind of as the restart started, there's a part that was doing double file, and these guys just kind of stay in that straight line and were able to push and push and push, and they just kind of lost that pack. And once you lose it, you can't catch it with it.
No, and speaking of that, also hitting the afterburner, you can see the telemetry, the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, is how much that gap has grown over the last handful of laps, and it is just about doubled as we started off 3.8 seconds to the good, and now north of 6.518 seconds. And that, of course, off the timing off of Diego Rodriguez's hot rod. I knew he was going to have a piece to race with out there on the racetrack. I know he wasn't back there deliberately, just a safety mechanism. Some of these drivers, they swear by starting these plate races in the rear with the gear, waiting for the mayhem to unfold in front of them. And then when it's the right time, go ahead and grabbing a fistful of steering wheel, putting your pedal all the way through the floorboards and driving it to the front. And that's what Diego Rodriguez has done. Just like the Domino's delivery, he has gotten it up here quick, fast, and in a hurry, as it's a front 5-car breakaway. Chris Davis probably sitting there just as stunned as I am, as he is 8.34 seconds off the pace. I'm scratching my head right now.
Yeah, once you get that breakaway, once you get like I mentioned, those cars are just clicking, working together, and I think they lost over half a second that last lap to this top 5, and I see them. They're all they're spread out a little bit. There's a couple of people double side by side with each other. All these little things are just slowing you down and spreading you out.
Ryan, you're reading my mind. I was just getting ready to talk about the pace and how much time they're losing a lap. And because you brought it into the limelight, another thing we can do here is we can look at the speeds between Group A and Group B. Let's go ahead and throw up the telemetry on Chris Davis's Toyota. That's also going to be in the right-hand corner of your screen. You can see he has it all the way in 5th gear, 5 gears in this next-gen car, unlike the H-pattern 4-speed of the of the generations before it. About 180 miles an hour into the corner, and currently with Princeton behind him, he's the fastest speeds I've seen, about 181, 182 miles an hour. Now, if we send this up to that lead pack, 185, 88 now down the backstretch, and that's what having a good dancing partner, a battle buddy, can do for you out on the racetrack. Look at the speed difference from this car, that single file in Group A, compared to the mayhem in the 2x2 racing going on in Group B. And my God, they are pulling away from them. I mean, the speed is huge, more than you would think out there. But that's the power of the draft and what single car formations can do out there on the racetrack.
Yeah, exactly. Now, when you're this front 5-pack, you are starting to think about like your pit stop. If we get to that, we don't have a caution on that. And you're absolutely loving this too. You're separating the field and hearing and probably talking with other people in the race. You're like, oh, this pack is 2x2x2x2, and you're just like, it's 7 heaven for you right now.
Right. I mean, you're just salivating, right? If you're Paul Hill, Matt Cox, anyone in this lead pack, you're checking out away from the competition. You're limiting how many cars essentially can play a role, in deciding who wins this race. Obviously, that dreaded yellow flag could change everything, but right now, these drivers are absolutely loving life. You don't want to be the one, and not to say what happened in this group of cars, but always seems to happen to me somehow, some way. Someone wants to pull out and side draft, and that is killer. You don't want to be the one to do that. I mean, you want to make some of these drivers madder than a Keebler elf that got demoted to Fudge Packer. Oh, this is going to get scary. We had 2 lap cars in front of this freight train dialed up to the heavens, and they had to scatter in front of them, and it got up close and personal. Nearly catastrophe. These guys are carrying so much momentum right now. Chris Claude going to go a lap down there in that 10 machine on the high side of the racetrack. Ryan, he was having a great run earlier. He was up inside the top 10 at the furthest forward all race long. I believe currently is 5th. Now those trends have flipped. As Chris Claude now finds himself all the way back in that 22nd place position.
Yeah, I mean, these races it's a very emotional kind of thing. I remember running, it's kind of like a marathon, and I remember running my first marathon. I felt every human emotion I felt was possible. And you're kind of feel that during these races. Depends on how it goes for you. When you start in the back and you're moving forward, you feel great. When you lose some positions, you feel awful. You feel like the world's about to fall out. You get into the wreck, you get a little bit damage or not at all, and you're like, okay, yes, we're still in this thing. And in the moment, you kind of get the damage. You're just like, okay, the world's falling, the sky's falling. So that's kind of what happened with the Chris Claude and 10 car today.
Kind of like a scene out of Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Like a roller coaster of a ride and emotion. I couldn't have said it better myself. And, this lead group has not backed it down one bit. Everyone in this top 5 last time by was between a 29.88 or 29.86 and a 29.84. If you go back to that second group of cars, there's a noticeable speed difference. I mean, you automatically jump into the 32nd bracket. Chris Davis a 30.26, Alex Princeton a 30.25. And I know there has to be veterans in this group of cars, that we're looking at right now. Drivers like Princeton, Nunemaker, Kane Hodison, Keith Long that are saying, guys, they are pulling away from us. We have to get single file. We have to cycle some new drivers here to the front. We got to find some mojo. We got to find some boogie under the hoodie and go run these guys down.
Yeah, it's a lot that kind of makes it pack fast. It's, I look at Princeton, he's not, his front bumper should be in the back bumper of the 74 car in order for him to get fast. You just kind of have to put this trust into that person and trust that they can handle it. You can push their car and they can basically try to turn it for you. As we kind of see them push out a little bit now. And then you also have a combination of they're double file and as we have another clocking.
Caution on the racetrack as we went down trackside on board with Alex Princeton, who decided to push Chris Davis the minute Ryan Samuelson mentioned it over the airwaves. Unfortunately, all that hard work, that shoving that pushing and shoving up front, all erased as this is going to equalize the field once again. Leaders got it pointed to pit road, and it looks like Paul Hill, Matt Cox, Dylan Banks, everyone in that pack is coming with them. Diego Rodriguez as well. And that's probably going to be the case for all of these drivers on the lead lap. Is that first group now officially on pit road past the commitment cone? Here comes Chris Davis, Princeton, Tane Hodison, Ron Fitting, Keith Long. We're bringing everyone. We're sending all the troops down pit road as it becomes the hottest place inside the racetrack. Critical stop right here.
And with this pit stop, you are just about in your fuel number. So the leader might be on edge of whether they can make it or not, but majority of everyone should be able to make it once we get back green here.
And while it was wholesale pit stops for just about everybody, look who stayed out on the racetrack. One of the long run boys. That's his specialty, a calling card, if you ask me. Ron Fitting in that number 3 TRD Toyota. He's going to stay out on the racetrack. And that's going to ruin some of the lives for other drivers who are betting on trying to take the wave around as Ron Fitting hit the button and said, not today. And sometimes, that's another thing that can be frustrating when you think everyone's going to be coming down pit road and you're banking on the wave around, and then someone on the lead lap stays out and instantly just puts you right back into reality that you're going to have to do it the hard way.
Interesting decision here, I will say. Everyone does have to pit in the stage, and a lot of people just got that out of the way with that initial pit stop. Maybe he's hoping for these guys who pit to be a little more aggressive in the back and just kind of take themselves out one by one. Or, you know what, everyone did this. Everyone zigs, I'm going to zag. Bold strategy, Cotton, as they say. So we'll see how that works.
Quoting one of the greatest interviews of all time, Cletus McFarland, Garrett Mitchell. I zigged when I should have zagged, and when I zagged, I zigged. Getting back to his Daytona interview. Good shit there, buddy. I appreciate that. That was awesome, man. It's funny what one individual, the impact they can have on a sport, isn't it? I mean, I don't think NASCAR ARCA would have thought Cletus McFarland would have that type of an impact. But, I mean, he's blown that sport wide open. I mean, all your big names are talking about him. Kenny Wallace, the Dale Jr. download. I mean, Cletus has had so much Dale Earnhardt Jr. content on his channel. Tony Stewart was just in one of his videos. So it goes both ways. It washes both hands. But I didn't think he would have that type of an impact. And boy, was I wrong. Just like Ron Fitting is hoping that this play on his behalf of going Las Vegas mode, high stakes, staying out on the racetrack, is going to come back and help his effort. Is that iRacing.com pace car pulls off the racetrack. Go ahead, Ryan. This one's yours.
All right, as we get the rage towards the Geico restart zone, we're going green. Great launch by the 3 car as he gets pushed by the 84. Immediately, 32 ducks down into the bottom line, leaving that outside line stranded. Only 2 cars are up there. Everyone kind of ducks down to their spots into the inside line. 21's holding pretty strong, but gets left out by Dylan Banks. Kind of going around the back stretch. 84 has a little bit of a run, getting shoved by the 32 up to him. We'll see what the 21 tries to do here. Will the 84 take the run, try to go around? He's got the, seems like maybe a ally right there, 32, but no, they're just going to stay strong behind him as the 21 falls back. I think we have some of these guys that are going to be in the front of this that are going to kind of use the 3 as a fuel pick. He is not necessarily in position to make it. I think as I say that and I go right around him. I clearly I don't know what's going on. Uh, Well, when you have someone that's been doing as great as controlling the race as the 84 and Caden Diedrich, you kind of start to go to your head like, how much do I want to win this race? Do I want to win this race more than I want him to lose this race? And you start to think about who's around you. As I don't know what Matt Cox goes wins the pit road. Interesting strategy there. You go ahead. Oh, I'm receiving word he received a restart violation penalty. Yeah, now you're kind of at this point in the race, you're kind of looking around. You're looking at who's around you, who can I trust, who can I work well with. At While I was running with, did I cut anyone a break that they're gonna give me the break? They're gonna work with me here. You're kind of trying to use that piggy bank. You might smash it up and be like, I need your help right now, man. Here's the coin. I'm going to deposit that coin, and if it requires getting your help here. Yeah, we just had a big checkup on the low line there, with kind of starting from the 6 and then Dylan Banks in the 70. It sounded like hey, you go ahead and get back down in front of me. You got kind of bumped out of line. You get in front of me. But the problem with that is, yeah, it helps the person you're trying to help, but it screws over everyone behind you. Big checkups. I was surprised we didn't get a big wreck right behind them. So good job to everyone for controlling themselves there.
Obviously, that's a big risk, right? When you do that, I mean, you got to always think about the risk versus reward. Good for, from a team standpoint, because you're helping one of your guys get in line and, helping them, not lose a ton of track position on the racetrack. The other side of that is 99.9% of the time, to what you were saying, you're going to cause a checkup. It's going to bottleneck somewhere, and you risk, lighting the wick on a grenade and perhaps wrecking someone's day because of it. And it's all about the decisions and how you calculate them in real time. When you make those decisions on the racetrack, how it can ultimately affect the outcome of this race. It's something that happens with plate racing. You hate to see it, but the more we see these teams strategize, as you continue to grow throughout the iRacing and get into these leagues that are have more of the elites, like SNN, the further you're going to push the envelope to go out there to try and win a race. And it's part of the matrix that makes up plate racing. Is we're on board with Diego Rodriguez now, who continues to be the biggest mover of the race, like Ryan Samuelson was last year. He's 32 spots, not 39, but he's trying to do a good impersonation of you in that 4th place position.
Hey, he's doing a great job. He's managing this race really well. I mean, as you start to see the kind of problems and wrecks shift their way towards the back more and more, he's been able to move himself up more into that front, where it's been a pinch more tamer, honestly, in the second half of the race. As we were in the first half, everyone was clawing for spots, and that caused a lot of chaos at the front of the race. But whereas now chaos has been a lot of that. We've seen a lot more wrecks in the 20 ranges versus the top 10.
Yeah, we certainly have, and kind of an unknown is, we spoke about it, probably 50 laps ago, just how the start of this race kicked off versus, the blueprint that we had, and just kind of having to hold on for the ride and roll with the changes, and that's certainly how the trends are now. But Lord knows if that's going to be the case a lap from now. We do know, without question, just how good Caden Diedrich is in this race, in that Chevrolet. And if you're going to dethrone him, I mean, you're going to have to dial up the run of the century to get around this guy, especially when you have the legs of Paul Hill, Dylan Banks, and Diego Rodriguez behind you, as they continue to pull away from this field once again. However, don't look now. There's a new group of cars that have kind of drove away from that bigger group that now finds themselves about 9 seconds off the lead pace. And look who's leading this charge. You got Seabiscuit Chris Davis, the guy that just got sent down pit road, out there being a good Samaritan and lending a hand to a fellow teammate there, the 32 of Matt Cox. And he's bringing the 3 of Ron Fitting with him. Remember, he dialed up that big-time strategy. Here he is back in the equation, trying to close in on the back of this 3-car tandem. He is there, has the draft. Ron Fitting still in that 8th place position.
And you're kind of at the point where it's a little more frustrating if you lose that front back, because you never know. We've seen some races in this league where we get caution, and we have gotten that tail a little bit, but it's always, you never know if that last 30, 40 laps are going to be caution-free. We have the talent, we have the drivers out here to be able to do that, and so it's always that fear. If we're not going to get that caution, it's just going to finish green here this way.
Well, based on what we're seeing right now, at least over the last, 50 laps or so, we've seen a drastic change at the front of this field as far as, what the sense of urgency is. Most of this race, it's been, hey, let's go out here, let's mix it up, let's slice and dice. It's all about trying to generate positions on the racetrack. Now you can see more of a group effort here across multiple manufacturers, drivers from other teams, trying to work collectively together to just run single file, and if you can, take off, get away from the competition, go out and set sail and limit who can, contend for a win in the closing laps. And we've seen that coming off of multiple restarts now. And, the intensity on the racetrack is dialed down, probably the most we've seen all race long. And right now, to your point, Ryan, it seems like, or it feels like, this is going to be green flag all the way to the finish. But then, you and I both know it's racing, it's NASCAR, it's never over till that checkered flag flies.
Oh yeah, I agree, man. And every time it feels like when there's something you want to occur, you're like, yes, this is the way I want. That caution flag comes out. It's always the opposite way. You get a long green flag ride. Yes, okay, I need this. I need to spread the gap. Okay, we need to get some cars lapped down and run those runs. Or it's you need a caution. You need to catch back up to the field. And I'm like, you just got caught in a crappy situation where you got forced you back. I think that's probably, if you're Chris Davis, you want a caution right now. You want to be able to get caught back with this lead back. If you're Alex Brinson, Paul Hale, Dylan Banks, all these guys, you're like, please under it. Let's keep this going. Let's keep this momentum going. Let no one wreck. Everyone have a super. Let's everyone gain some ultimate talent here. Let's keep this going.
Yeah, Paul Hill, to quote Talladega Nights, is praying to sweet baby Jesus that there is not a yellow flag until this one is done and dusted in the books. And just as you said, on the other side of the coin, if you're Biscuit and some of these guys from Beast Mode Performance, you're doing the rain dance, whatever you can conjure up to make that yellow flag fly one more time. However, it does look like they are running them down at times. Now, that last lap, that first group was a little bit quicker, but I think Davis is trying to rally the troops, and look, he's got a face full, or I should say Matt Cox has given a face full of Toyota to the back of that 74 machine as they had those bumpers welded. You can see the urgency here. They are trying to put down some hot ones to go and run down this pack. If the caution's not going to help them, they're trying to do it themselves as they're going to make a change here. What? Oh my God, what happened here?
Yeah, it looks like a little bit of reshuffling, just to try to see who can do what. And the problem with that is it sounds good on paper, but then you actually do it and you just lose so much from it.
Yeah, they lost over a second with that shuffle. I thought the initial plan was to just burp it and just shuffle the two front cars, but for whatever reason, that took a lot longer than it should have, and those drivers probably not happy with the exchange. But before that happened, you could see the sense of urgency down there. Chris Davis, Ron Fitting and those guys were trying to work collectively together to go out there and just beat those guys with raw speed, trying to run them down. That change cost them some precious time, so they're going to have to regroup and try to do it again. They still have north of 30 laps, though. Anything can happen, but right now, each and every lap that comes off of that scoring pylon is one less lap they have to go up there and mount a charge to try to mount a comeback.
Yeah, absolutely. And when as this run started going, I thought once the 32 got lapped down, I saw him kicked over the pack. I was like, Chris Davis is in an excellent position here. He has a teammate here with the 32 who's a lap down, who is not racing for the win currently. Obviously, if he would have got cautioned, he would be the first car one lap down. But there's no point necessarily benefit for him being the lead car other than caution comes out. He doesn't need to take away round. But he would have been able to shove Chris Davis up to that point position, that number one spot. But now that they're all the way back mired and they're losing time, and even shuffling isn't going to help, it's kind of the whole thing of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But their whole thing was broke, and they tried to fix it, and it just kind of blew the water out a little bit more.
Yeah, they're trying to do something. They know there's a problem, and they're trying to find a solution, and that's better than just sitting there and doing nothing. And speaking of shuffling, The YouTube.com live chat pumping, vibing once again, asking for some Paul Hill and some 94 coverage. I got you, brother. So let's send it now on board with the driver in second place position, the Dent Slayer, man. Kind of got a refreshed and revived ride, but when I think of Paul Hill, that's the paint scheme I think of. We're going to sit it down trackside. You're on board with him. And there you are, race fans, backing up what we were saying in the live chat and on the broadcast. Shout out your driver. We'll do our best to get them some extra screen time for you. And once again, Bad Chad Sander, your 2021 SNN Daytona 250 winner, who runs in that 11th place position. And also Paul Hill in P2. You guys highly requested in the live chat, trying to hook up your viewers, your followers, with some up-close and personal track footage from you guys out there under live green flag conditions. Paul Hill, of course, out of Actionville, Florida. A couple hours north of me as I'm further down the state. But Ryan, as we were talking about off-air, that's someone who could certainly dethrone, that 84 is Paul Hill. I know it's a Chevrolet right behind him, but that guy is good just about any time he puts the race suit on. If he's out there, he's always a driver I'm thinking about that can go out there and win a race.
Yeah, absolutely. Paul Hill is one of my favorite drivers to talk to and learn from this league. I credit winning Daytona a lot to him and just kind of things as we hooked up with running last year at Daytona, and his wealth of knowledge. And I know he's been playing for this spot, this moment, this entire race. I think he's just an incredible driver here, and without a doubt, in his mind, I know he thinks he could take all these guys 1-on-5.
And I get that impression as I've had the opportunity to interview him, quite a few times given his performance over the past couple years. And certainly, that's the vibe I get from him. He has a lot of confidence, got a little swagger to him, and just, when he wants to do something, feels like he can go out there and execute. And, I don't think anyone would question his ability, especially here in the SNN Cup Series. As we're single file, we're getting strung out here once again. Dylan Banks, Diego Rodriguez, Tane Hodison. They're going to round out your top 5. Then you got Alex Brinson, Chris Davis from Beast Mode Performance out of Oshkosh, Missouri. John Crow Sr. in the 95 ride. And Richard Pruitt up 17 spots in that 9th place position. And rounding out your top 10, Don Miller in the 23 Mean Machine. Going to round out the top 10 scoring cars as they run with just 19 laps to go. John Wilco, one of the Pennsylvania boys from McAdoo, currently runs 11th, while Timothy Cook in the 09 ride, having a great run at Daytona last week, looking to back it up this week, is entrenched in that 12th place position, while Bad Chad Satter, your 2021 champion of the 500, runs in 13th. Jeff, one of my favorite Carsons out of Virginia, rounds out your top 14. Brian Nudemaker in the 56 out of California. The last car inside the top 15 with 18 laps to go. Ryan, these guys up front that are putting down the hot laps right now, this is what they need to keep doing, right? Just go ahead, give them a little extra insurance policy. And then if you're in this pack, when do you decide to make a move? If you're Alex Brinson, if you're Tane Hodison, when does that momentum need to start to be brewed out there on the racetrack if you want to have a shot there to win it at the line?
You're looking at like 10 to go on last. You're kind of peeking out some moves. You're going to peek out a line a little bit and see, okay, does anyone look to the outside with me a little bit? You're starting to try to gather that information of, if I go, who's going to go with me? You can't do it alone as much as some of these drivers probably think they can. I mean, I expect all these alliances that I have talked about all race to start to show themselves and who they are, who you're working with. They take off the cap and reveal yourself.
Great way to put it. And we're going to start to, everyone's going to start to show their hands right here sooner than later. Something that I try to do when I'm in this situation, if we're single file like this and you have a good amount of real estate between yourself and the next pack of cars, do you test the waters? Do you maybe, show a glimpse of what your strategy is by trying to start generating runs prematurely here, just so you can time it to see how long it's going to take, or is that a bad idea and you're just better off saving it until, like you said, 10 laps to go, or coming out of turns 3 and 4 for that matter?
You gotta save it because you really, like Eminem said, you got one shot, one opportunity. Don't ever get let it go. You got one shot here because we've seen how the outside line has struggled a bit here, and so if you try to make the outside, we know the leader's gonna hug that inside line. You're not the back line all day. If you go outside line, no one goes with you. You're gonna be shuffled all the way back. It's a little easier at Daytona to kind of manipulate runs like this, but here it's been super difficult with the grip, and you're not really able to push in the corners necessarily because of that handling aspect of it.
And like Ryan said, you don't want to be like Cheddar Bob, who shot himself in the leg with his own gun on the final lap, that being the guy that pulls out and nobody goes with you. That's always the most mentally stressful position to be in these closing laps on restrictor plate races. When you're in it and you have a shot, someone has to take that initial leap of faith. And when I've done it, I always pray someone goes with me, or can I disrupt the commotion? Can I throw a monkey wrench in the other guy's momentum to where I affect them too? Because you never know how it's going to go. But, unless everyone wants to see the 84 in victory lane, Paul Hill, Banks, Tane Hodison, somebody in this group of race cars is going to have to do that. They're going to have to dial it up and make a move and hope they get some support if they want to dethrone Caden Dietrich with just 12 laps remaining in this one.
I think some of the lap cars honestly will come to play in this, that are in this pack now if they're able to stay with it, because their lap cars are out of the way. They're not going to win the race necessarily, but they like a guy a little more than the other one. It kind of comes down to, who do I not want to win at this point? A little bit. And And are you going to make yourself a factor in that?
Ryan, I swear to God, you're psychic, reading my mind. As I was just getting ready to talk about this guy right here, Ron Fitting. Look where he is. He's in this group with the leaders. However, timing and scoring sings a different tune. Currently scored in that 18th place position. Who can he help? He has nothing really to lose here in this situation outside of being stuffed and peppered into the fence. But he could certainly help somebody get the job done. And we've seen it happen throughout the course of history in real life and on the simulation side of things. You mentioned the lap cars. Here's some coming into the picture. There's the 29. He's probably going to be able to slide in line and hold on to this gaggle of cars. If I had to guess, in fact, he's doing that right now just as I say that. Then if you go back, and I know this is a big if with just 9 laps remaining, as we're already past the gentleman's handshake lap. You go back to that 13th place position. Is that, wow, that has really changed its complexion out there on the racetrack since I just peeked at it moments ago, as you have Jeff Carson, John Wilco, and Timothy Cook there. But, to your point, there are certainly lab cars in the mix, in the top of the pecking order that can influence the outcome of this race. We have to keep an eye on Ron Fitting. Who does he work with? Is the 45 now is going to squeeze himself down into that lead pack, a Mustang. That's an important note there. Is this going to come down to a manufacturer alliance, or is it going to be, hey, who's going to give me the best shot to get across the start-finish line first? You got to stick right here. Stay with us on Redline Racing Network to find out, as we are 187 miles an hour at times, doing things, big things, out here on the racetrack. And it's about to get full-blown high-octane mode. Live in prime time is now just 6 laps going to be remaining in this one, this time at the line, Ryan.
Yeah, as we start to see that pack now kind of split into another 2, we start to see those lap cars get away, so that probably isn't in effect anymore. In fact, Princeton loses out on this. That's kind of a bummer for him, and now everyone, now that they're all mixing up and up, trying to get back to that front pack, it just doesn't help them out. If I'm thinking for these guys, if I'm Dylan Banks or Rodriguez in the 21, I'm really liking where I'm at right now. You're in that 3rd and 4th spot where you matter to those, especially a lot to those 2 front cars, but you have a little bit of drafting help. A little bit. You have someone, if someone pops up, you can draft off them or push them or shove them and all that. Where if you're Paul Hill, unless the 84 goes up the block, you don't have anything to kind of pull you forward versus like the 70 or the 21 or even Tane Hodgson in 93.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, modern plate racing, you do not want to be the leader on the final lap. I mean, that is almost, worse than being in like 15th position, depending on, if your goal's set to win, you don't want to be P1. The only person I know that can block 5 lanes of traffic at Daytona, not get spun out, take it down to the grass, and still find a way to win is my broadcast partner, DJ Daniel. You guys haven't had a chance to watch him race, but I hope he gets a chance someday to put it out on the racetrack with you guys. He is a wheelman and a half, and I am fortunate enough to get to race with him in another league, as we're on a Toyota team together. But outside of him, I mean, it's literally impossible. When you're the leader, you try to pull out and throw the block, you're going to get dumped. Or if you're Ryan Newman, you may almost, it may cost you your life. It's a high-risk situation. But where Paul Hill, Dylan Banks, Diego Rodriguez is, that's right where you want to be. And boy, these drivers know it, and they probably have a huge grin on their face as popsicle sticks are in the air. 2 to go.
They shift all the way out by line. You think you do that if you're 84 as a protective measure to try to have the most momentum off. Now you're getting that 1 to go, so I'm not going to jinx anything. And we got a lot of traffic up there. We'll talk a little bit about interesting aspects.
Oh, this is going to get good. What is this lap traffic going to do? Is the 6 of Paul Hill all over the rear end and the business end of that Chevrolet, trying to swipe the nose from right to left to get him loose? It's not going to work. 1 lap to go, and it's a 5-car battle to the finish of this one as we drag race down the backstretch for the final time. into turns 3 and 4. The 84 is going to try to pull down and utilize the draft off that pack of cars. That's a lap down, and it's going to work as the 84 is going to hit the afterburner, and Caden is going to win this thing. Absolutely incredible. Paul Hill comes home second. Dylan Banks rounds out your podium. Diego Rodriguez, Tane Hodison, the top 5. Ryan, you called it. Hit the nail on the head before. I don't think you even realized it. That the leader able to utilize that pack of cars for a little draft assist, almost like the push to pass in Formula One, and those guys behind him never had a chance.
Yeah, no, and we talked about this the entire time. Like, Caden was so masterful at maintaining himself during the race and maintaining that lead. You didn't want to give the best guy maintaining the lead draft and that momentum to it. And so once they called that lap traffic, it reminded me of Indy 500s and finishes when you get that lap car at the end that kind of gets that slipstream to give that guy at the end. So great job by Tane.
I was just saying, you don't want to be the leader coming to the line. And what was I telling you? Don't worry about it. These drivers do it all the time. He gets a big-time gift, a bonus from that lap pack, and those drivers couldn't touch him. It was like opening a bottle of nitrous on an inferno. The 84, your pole sitter and your race winner, puts on an epic performance. As we get ready to shift gears into post-race coverage here on Redline Racing Network, we're going to switch some graphics around. Stick around. We'll be right back in 30 seconds with interviews and more. Great job, buddy.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Do you want to get 3 and 1?
Here at TWRS, we're always here to help our squad when they need a little push in the right direction. That's just who we are. We're a beautifully diverse group of goofballs dedicated to driving fake race cars as fast as possible. And we continue to push each other to the front using the power of nonsense. We have one of the strongest NASCAR programs on the service, and you can access it all for $24.99 a month. And we just released individual subscriptions for $14.99 a month for each NASCAR vehicle. We also just added a rallycross program, and our IndyCar program is taking off as well. So come join the weird side. We have speed and cookies. Cookies are not included in some locations. Here at TWRS, we're always here to help our squad when they need a little push in the right direction. That's just who we are. We're a beautifully diverse group of goofballs dedicated to driving fake race.
Welcome back to Redline Racing Network. Ladies and gentlemen, we're Caden and this Chevrolet have put on a performance of the ages. Your pole sitter able to do it in single car configuration. It absolutely had a missile of a race car. Didn't matter if he was out front or back in traffic. He was bad, FAST fast, and was gifted a big-time bonus from a group of lap traffic in front of him, able to utilize them as a push to pass NASCAR style. And those guys behind him didn't even have a chance to touch him or even put up a challenge coming out of 3 and 4 as he cooked it. Fastest lap of the race to the line. He is your winner. Paul Hill comes home second. Dylan Banks gonna round out your podium in that third place position as we now shift the post race here on Redline Racing Network. I want to thank all of you for joining us along for the ride here this evening. And Ryan, who do we got queued up here?
It's going to bring out our third place finisher, Dylan Banks, in.
Let's go ahead and bring up Dylan Banks. Dylan Banks, Matt and Ryan up in the Tony Trapassa Memorial broadcast booth. You got a copy?
I sure do, buddy.
Well, hey, man, first of all, great run. I'm going to turn this over to Ryan. He's live with you.
Hey, Dylan, first of all, great run today, finishing third. You kind of were quietly up there the entire time. Was that the strategy to be up front the entire time, just kind of manage your stuff and avoid all that?
Oh yeah, definitely, man. Track position is so key here at Atlanta, man. I mean, Daytona, Talladega, you can at least pass a little bit, but Atlanta, man, you get stuck in the mid pack, backpack. I mean, it's just your night's over pretty much. So yeah, I was just trying to stay up front, do the best I could, and had a little bit of working together there with Paul and Caden. We were all working together there. So I'm happy for my man Caden to get the win. It means a lot. I know it means a lot to him, and just glad with the podium finish, man. Anytime you can come out of these races, even finish in these races is a win. So yeah, just grateful for the opportunity, man.
Gotcha. That kind of answered a little bit my next question, but I'll elaborate on that. So I talked throughout the whole race of you kind of have these secret alliances that with drivers that before the race happens during the race. Uh, how did that come up with Caden? I know you guys were working with Paul as I was originally planning to work with you guys. I wish I was out there pushing you guys to the win. Actually, pushing myself to the win. But anyway, how did that whole come about?
Yeah. Well, me and Paul definitely we've known each other for a while now, and definitely have a strong alliance with him. But I've also known Caden for a while too. He's at or he was one of the EPI drivers helping me out. So, um, yeah. I mean, we figured out during the race. I told Paul to or I actually got in contact with Caden to make sure we were all on the same page, and it went from there. We were just trying to work together and just trying to get 1, 2, 3 finish.
That's awesome. Who puts the car on track for the number 70 Dylan Banks car?
Oh man, well, gotta thank my guys at Grease Monkey Motorsports. I wouldn't be here without them. They gave me the opportunity and the shot to even be here, so I definitely got to thank my guys over there. Hated it didn't work out for them and got involved in some wrecks, and um, Ron tried a different strategy, hoping for late caution to try to keep track position, and it didn't play out. So I hate it for my guys over there, but I do want to give a big shout at them because I wouldn't be here without them. Obviously, Paul and all the guys over on y'all's team. Um, they've helped me a bunch too. I can't say they haven't. Y'all have helped me a bunch. And yeah. Shout out to my mom who's watching. Shout out to all my friends watching. Shout out to viewers, and yeah, big shout out to y'all up in the booth. We wouldn't be here without you. And I want to give a huge shout out to Matt Metler. Dude, you're a Redline Racing Network, dude. I mean, is sick, dude. We can't thank you enough for even doing that for doing this for us, man. We really appreciate you, and yeah, can't wait to see y'all at Coda, I guess. Yes, he was. Oh man, yeah, definitely got to thank my guys at Grease Monkey again. Couldn't do it without them. Big shout out to y'all up in the booth. Y'all did a phenomenal job tonight. Got to give a big shout out to Chris Claw for putting on this league, man. He does a great job. I mean, he keeps everything straight. It's one of the best leagues I've been a part of, so just grateful to be here. And I want to give a big shout out to Dave. Definitely miss him up in the booth for sure. I know you miss him up in the booth, but uh, he's such a good person, great person. And yeah, shout out to Mr. Trapasso too, man. Big shout out to him. Um, yeah, it's just a blessing to be here, man. And yeah, big shout out to Redline. Y'all did a phenomenal job tonight, man. As always. Yes, sir, buddy. Hopefully we'll be talking to you next week.
Hey, Paul, Ryan, up in the booth. You got a copy, my man.
Hey, what's up, Ryan? How are you, bud?
Good. I mean, I wish I could have been out there with you guys finishing up the race, but a little big wreck turned into a long day at the office, but a fun day at the office too. So tell us a little bit about your race, man. I know you started in the back with me and worked actually a little bit in midway and worked your way up front. What kept you up front?
Oh yeah, man. It's a long race. Not very good at qualifying. That's kind of my Achilles heel, no matter what racetrack it is, super speedways especially. So I knew it was going to be a long day, and thankfully I got linked up with Dylan and was trying to work with you and Chad, but unfortunately you guys kind of got tangled up and stuff. I think Chad was able to rebound pretty well there and still get a top 10. So awesome night for him overall, but you know, another day in the office, another top 5, so it's cool. Happy with it.
So we got a little information from Dylan that you were kind of working with Caden a little bit towards the end of the race. However, I know how much you want to win, always want to win, but you're willing to push it anyway. What could you have done there to, you feel, get that extra spot and finish in that first place instead of second place today?
I honestly done better saving a little bit of right front. As much as it is a super speedway, you do have to still manage your tires a little bit. And I was taking too shallow of an entry for too long, and I kind of burned my right front up. And he moved up to the high line there at the end, which was going to be my only play, getting to his right rear and trying to drag him back with how poor my truck or car was handling. So honestly, I needed to save my tires a little bit better there, pushing. But yeah, I was working with Caden. We had that first initial breakaway, and so I was like, you know what, let's get on the horn with him and see if we can do it again, and just kind of separate ourselves and get a long green flag run and duke it out there on the last few laps. But I kind of burned my right front up, and Dylan couldn't get there in time to generate any sort of run to kind of push me, and that was that. But shout out to Caden. That was a great job by him. He had a great car. He led most of this race anyway. He's a very deserving winner. So glad to see him get that, and I'll take my second.
You kind of mentioned these you're able to kind of separate yourself from the pack a little bit. How much of that was a strategy that you went into head thinking, if I can get the right cars with me, we can get out like seconds ahead of a pack behind us? How much of was that in your mind during the race this entire time?
I mean, you always look for that, right? You always look for the few cars that link up well with yours, that have a complementary setup that pushes well and leads well. And Caden's car was really good up on the front, and I'm a better pusher than I am a leader. And Dylan was able to stay right up on my back bumper, and whoever was behind us gave him enough of an arrow push, and we were gone as long as we could get like a 4th or 5th car behind Dylan. With us 3 in tow, it was a pretty stout combination. So once I saw that and we kind of got aligned that first time, I was like, all right, we need to keep doing this and hope for a long green flag run, and then it will pretty much just be a battle of us and whoever tows behind us. So it worked out. Just burned up too much right front to really make a race out of it there on that last lap.
Gotcha. Anything from you, Matt? Okay.
Once again, the Dent Slayer, man. Sorry about that. I was muted, ladies and gentlemen. Seeing all these comments coming in, and you guys pumping us up over here on the channel. I forgot to unmute myself, and I apologize for that. And I'll get back to what I said a couple moments ago. But Paul, that was a heck of a run from you. I was wondering when the Dent Slayer, man. I know you kind of changed the paint scheme up a little bit, but that's how I remember you, from past seasons. You brought it for Florida, man. Jacksonville represented very well here tonight. What a flawless race by you. The only one maybe a little bit better was the guy that you were pushing ultimately there to the end of the race. I got to ask you one question. Were you just as shocked as I was how he was able to get that draft at the right time, coming to the checkered flag, and no one was able really to challenge because of it?
Oh yeah, that was pretty impressive. I was trying to load up a charge there at the end and try to get to his right rear, but man, I couldn't generate nothing. He was gone, and that was that. Which he, like I said, he was a deserving winner, man. He had a great car tonight, great race, really clean race. I can't fault him. It was a good race, man. But he had quite the hot rod. He was gone on that last lap. I couldn't get to him even if I wanted to, which trust me, I did. But couldn't do nothing. Take my second and gear up for Coda next week, right?
Hey, Coda's next week. We'll be looking forward to watching your performance on the, as we go off the high banks, start turning right and left for the first time this season. Paul, you keep running like that, and I know from past seasons, you get hot. These drivers need to look out because when you're fast and furious, it is game on each and every time you suit up out there on Sunday night. Thanks for joining us up here and on the broadcast side of things, and I look forward to speaking with you in the future.
I appreciate it. You guys have a great night.
You too. That is 2 down. That leaves 1 to go. That leaves tonight's winner, little quack attack as he jumps into the Tony Trapassa Memorial broadcast booth. Caden, you got a copy, brother.
I got you loud and clear.
What kind of sauce do you got under the hood of that Camaro, man? Not only was that a rocket out there in single car trim, you had everything covered. I mean, today in the real life, we've seen the Fords. They were bad, lightning quick out in front, but you put some dirty air on them, it's a different car. Not the case with you. Out front, untouchable. You put yourself in the back a couple positions. It was like you're immune to that dirty air. And like Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Michael Waltrip back in the glory days of DEI, when you wanted to simply take that lead back, you pulled out and made it look effortlessly out there. That car was just perfect. How were you able to put together such a statement win against such great competition tonight?
Well, for the car being as quick as it is, all the shout-outs go to Jones Racing Setups, JRS Racing, all the guys over there for putting this piece together. It was honestly amazing all race. Like, the handling never went away. I never got tight, never got loose, never had to fight it. Dirty air, no problem. Pushing, no problem. Leading, no problem. So all the guys back over there with a great piece. Yeah, that was definitely a long race. That was the longest race I think I've ever done. It was just good to be out front. I lost all my teammates early in the race. They all had issues, but then I got working with Paul and Dylan, which shout out to those guys, by the way, for being so cool to work with. Yeah, that was about it from there. Then we just had a couple cautions back to back, and that nice green flag run ended where our Jones Racing Setups machine was just so good that I was just able to get the draft of that lap car pack at the end, and I don't think there's anything anyone could do with the way this baby was handling.
I'll tell you what, you made a liar out of me because I said moments before that happened, you don't want to be the guy leading, on the final lap. And I knew you had a fast hot rod. And, earlier in the race, Ryan had made a similar call, and the field did the complete opposite. And he's like, I don't know what's going on. I shouldn't be talking right now. And I said, no, that's just what happens up here in the broadcast booth. And lo and behold, you timed that brilliantly. And, I mean, it was like your car got a 200 shot of nitrous. I mean, no one had a chance. With as fast as that car was, plus that draft assist, I mean, it was game over. I mean, I was scraping my jaw up off the floor. I think you turned the fastest lap of the race on the final lap. I'll have to check to be specific, but that last one was a hot one. You mentioned Paul Hill and Dylan Banks. All of your teammates, unfortunately, didn't have the run they were looking for tonight. How important and how critical is it to be able to find other competitors that you can make alliances with out there on the racetrack like that when your other guys, for whatever reason, just aren't there to help out?
Super speed runs, I think it's the biggest thing ever in the race. Like, if I didn't have any help there, those two so easily could have at any point taken a run, gotten my right rear, taken the side draft off my car, and I could have lost the back because that's how powerful their side draft is in this car. This car specifically, having help is the biggest thing ever. And you got to try to, at these plate tracks, the biggest tips that I know are just make friends, run up front, show what you can do so people are like at the end, if it's a 50-50 situation, I know this guy knows what he's doing, I'm going to go with him. Like, make the friends at the end, and just super speedway knowledge that I've learned over my about, I guess, a year period on the game. Just super speedways are its own type of racing. You kind of just got to learn when to move, how to move, what to do. Like, just a bunch of things you got to learn. And I think tonight, having the help I did, just kind of put all that on display. The end might not have been the most fun for the show, but I think the rest of the race is a pretty fun watch. So I hope everyone enjoyed watching it.
Oh no,
We go to Coda next week, so that should be a race for sure.
that's right. We start off, the 2025 campaign with two, big plate races. Now we're going to completely change the game. We're going to come off the high banks, start turning right and left and kick off our road course portion of the season, if you will. How do you feel about Coda? How strong are you on the road courses?
I would say I'm a decent road racer. I wouldn't say I'm like insane, but I'm not gonna say I'm bad. Coda is probably near my least favorite on the road course schedule, so that'll probably be a little bit of a struggle for me. But I'm gonna put in the time and see if we can bring this Jones Racing setups machine back to hopefully a top 10 finish at Coda. Then we go right back to Phoenix, I'm pretty sure, which is one of my strong suits, I think. So that should be a fun show there.
The last time I asked a driver in a similar situation how coming off of a win on a super speedway, the very next week they backed it up with a win at a road course. So I'll be paying extra close attention to you next week. Before we get everything all said and done, who do you want to thank who helps you get it done on the 84? The floor is yours.
Well, I want to thank Jones Racing, Setup Shares Racing again, all the guys over there. If you're looking for setups, perfect place. Setups are only $4.99. Best value out there. I just want to thank my team, Tyler Honor for getting me a charter, all the guys, Dylan Banks, Paul Hill for working with me there at the end. That's about all I can think of, honestly. Shout out to the broadcast booth for putting this together, all the league admins for keeping the race and, putting this event on.
Well, there he is, ladies and gentlemen. Superman was in a race car tonight that was untouchable. Went out there with blazing speed in qualifying, took the field by storm and the pole. And when that green flag dropped, the 84 was not going to be denied a trip to victory lane. No help from his team, no problem. He was a one-man army. He got the help from the right people when he needed it. And also, a big-time gift and a bonus on the lead lap. I'm not sure where he dialed up that kind of luck. I wish I would get that every once in a while. Able to catch a group of cars going in the process of going a lap down to get a massive speed push to pass NASCAR style, if you would, to come across the start-finish line first with a dominating performance. Caden, thank you for joining me up here in the Tony Trapassa Memorial Broadcast booth. Have a great evening, and I hope we'll be speaking with you again really soon, my friend.
Thanks for everything.
Always appreciate a great interview. And Ryan, we had three brilliant ones back to back to back here up in the Tony Trapassa Memorial booth. Want to take a moment to thank you for just taking a leap of faith, joining me up here in the booth. I know you and I had some really great plans as far as how we were going to utilize you as the in-car reporter, especially while you were driving in real time. We got a glimpse of that. Ultimately, plate racing, Atlanta things happened. You were out early, but then you came up here into the booth and you did a heck of a job, man. First time ever up here. I could not appreciate you more. And the door is open anytime you want to join.
Thanks for having me up here. It was a blast to have a different perspective and watch these guys and help you along with that. You're excellent to work with. It was great to join you and be on the other side a little bit for a race, but I hope to be back on the other side as well, and where we're getting the post-race questions for winning some races in this league this year. So,
hey, we know you're a fierce competitor, and you like getting it done out there on Sunday nights, and whenever you don't have a ride or you want to change the scenery, the door is always open for you. We'll go ahead and cut you loose, or if you want to hang around, you're more than welcome to. But I just had to give you credit where credit is due. Thank you so much for helping out up here. You're certainly an asset tonight, and I appreciate your time.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
And ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry. I realized I was muted there when we switched over. I just was reading some of the comments. You guys pumping me up, and Dylan Banks in his interview. That means a lot to us. We have, I haven't been doing this long, on my own. And before I took this gig with you guys here on Sunday Night NASCAR, the last thing I wanted to do was go out there and let you guys down. You guys are a great league, some elite drivers, and trying to replace as I said in the Discord, broadcasting juggernauts of sim racing media and Dave Regal, that is a very intimidating act to follow. And put a lot of work into this. We truly want to give you guys the best experience possible. And we appreciate all the comments, the compliments. And Dylan Banks, thank you. We cannot appreciate you enough. With that being said, we're going to close out this segment of the interview process and race, which means there's only one thing left to do. And that's take a look at the final results here this evening. Again, Chevrolet in victory lane. In fact, 1-2, Paul Hill, Dylan Banks round out your top three finishers, as you heard from them just moments ago during post-race coverage. Now let's see if we can get the final results here to cooperate, as they have been less than perfect throughout the course of today. Go ahead and see if we can get these to show up on the main screen for you folks at home. Yes, my son is headbutting me. Thank you. I'll be with you in just a moment. It's not funny. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. Come on, work with me here. There we go. It may be a little glitchy here, but we're going to get it. There we go. Your final results from Atlanta, round number 2, officially in the history books. What a thrilling way to start the SNN 2025 Cup Series. Thrilling finish once again at Daytona, and a hot rod absolutely lit Caden in that Camaro come across that start-finish line P1 to close out race number 2. Paul Hill, Dylan Banks, as you know, as you heard from them just moments ago. Diego Rodriguez came from the rear with the gear to a 4th place finish, while Dane Hodison rounds out your top 5. The 19 of Alex Pridson, Beast Mode Performance, Chris Davis, Bad Chad Sanner, Richard Pruitt, Don Miller round out the top 10. John Crow Sr. is going to come home 11th, while the 9 of Jeff Carson didn't take any cars to the face and came home 12th. Timothy Crook backs up his strong Daytona run with a top 13th place finish. Great run for Cook. John Wilco, the Pennsylvanian, comes home from that 14th place position. Brian Nunemaker rounds out your top 15, while Keith Long, Matt Cox, Ron Fittig from Grease Monkey Motorsports, that's the top 18. Cross your fingers here, please. Come back the other way. Talking about the results, of course. That may get stuck there in that 18th place position. If that's the case, I do apologize. We'll just call it from over here. 19th belongs to Rob Esau. Chris Custer rounded out your top 20, up 5 positions from where he started. Tyler Hunter, Tanner Marty in the 29 ride. Round out your top 25. Dalton Mobley, Tyler Sexton, Michael Witt in the 88. Jay Dewey, Sean Rogers, your Daytona winner, had a great car. He just did not have Lady Luck on his side at the end. He's going to squeak out at top 30 in that 29th place position, but he's going to take a massive points hit in the process. Jaden in the 50 comes home in that 30th place position. John Crawford, Andrew Deemer, Jeremy Miller. Unfortunately, it was not a thriller for him and his return. However, that car had some bad speed in the early going of this race. Going to cross the line 33rd. Matt Mackin. 34th, Tony, Eric, Brian Tarnowski, Ken Rod, Steve Herring, Brian Samuelson up in the broadcast booth with me tonight. Also, your in-race reporter, rounding out your top 40. Rafael Rodriguez, Bennett Allen, I believe, in race control duties, as that's going to round out the field of the 40 drivers who took the initial green flag here tonight. I want to thank all of you, all the men and women behind the scenes that make this broadcast possible. Big shout out to Team Watson Racing Setups and Black Magic for being the official setup shop and custom design and paint scheme partner of the channel. And as the late, great Tony Trapasso used to say, as you walk down the road of life this week. Do us all a favor, and we'll see you next time right here on Redline Racing Network. Oh, and by the way, don't play in traffic. Good night, everybody.